If you're having a conversation and you're referring to a concept and somebody asks you to define the concept and then you have to run to the definition to define the concept,
yes,
then the question rightfully in the person's mind is, what were you referring to if you needed to define the concept after invoking it? That's why running to the debate or running to the dictionary in that particular debate doesn't really make any sense. It'd be like saying, my friend, my friend believes this and that, and my friend is big on this and that. And you're like, wait a second, really? Where? And you're like, well, hold on, let me look up and see who my friend is first. It's like, wait, what? How are you referring to what your friend said or what your friend feels?
Dictionaries are not friends.
No. You're not understanding what I'm saying. Hold on. No, wait. Do you understand that if you invoke a concept and then somebody asks you to define that concept, that they're not asking you how the dictionary defines it, they're asking you how you define it because you're the one that invoked it in a debate.
In your English, in your language, all right? All right, in your language.
No.
To a social contract, to appeal to a...
Destiny, the first question is from yourdadgay.png. They ask, what's your take on companies recently not supporting Pride Month, including Discord, who has been scandalously silent during Pride this year?
I don't even know what does that mean by not supporting Pride Month? As in before they were putting rainbow stuff everywhere and now they're not? Have they given a reason for why they're not as much?
That's all the user has said. Just wondering about your position on that.
I don't follow this shit. I have no idea. I guess I would have to see like how they supported it in the past and how they're supporting it now. If if they had said, for instance, that we don't want to support Pride because we think that before, I don't even know. I'm not sure. Actually, I don't even know. There could be like a million reasons why before or against it, but I would have to see some of the positions stated by the companies, or I'd have to see the differences in how they supported it and how they different. And how they don't now. So I have no idea.
Okay. I did get a pin from this individual.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're in the chat right now. If you'd be interested in bringing them up and seeing if they can elaborate.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah, sure.
What I particularly want to know is what do you think about like Target and companies like that caving to alt-right demands in violence, and going ahead and Discord being one of them in terms of its material support. So Discord every year would contribute to creators that are LGBT or help communities that are LGBT specifically with material support, with money, promotions, etc. And this year they're silent as a mouse, and so on and so forth, including other companies that used to be open and honest. And I get the whole idea of rainbow capitalism can be exclusively bad, but it seems that it does have some benefits, though, in terms of that material support. That was my question.
Has anybody said why?
No, they've just been silent as a mouse. Nothing.
Huh. I don't know. Maybe they thought that the amount of support last time had like a really negative business feedback, or maybe... yeah, I don't know. I just Googled it. After last year, for Target, the retailer faced heavy criticism after it announced plans to remove some of its Pride Month merchandise from store shelves following a backlash against the products, including threats to employee safety. I don't know. Maybe they felt like some of the situations in the stores weren't good. Am I making this up? I feel like I remember watching YouTube videos of like dipshit conservatives like tearing down pride flags in Target and like making TikToks of this.
Yeah, that was a fact.
Yeah, maybe for stuff like that. I would say like if it's in response to stuff like that, I'm sympathetic towards them doing that. If it's because they're trying to make their stuff more palatable towards like anti-LGBT audiences, I would probably say I'm probably not in favor of that. I mean, I guess unless that reflects the values of the board and the CEO, in which case, I mean, that's your right as a company. But I mean, in general, I'm in favor of showing support for LGBT communities. So if they're not doing that, I guess it's kind of sad, but I don't have a strong opinion on it. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's gone.
So the next question is from Walrus, wanting to know, who have you enjoyed debating the most?
Who have I enjoyed debating the most? I think it's probably people with strong factual foundations that give me things to research at the end, or people that are willing to engage in good faith in a conversation so we can follow each other's trains of thought, we can follow each other down hypotheticals, rather than like them, being wary and trying to head you off and not engaging with what you're saying. recently, I think that like live conversations I've had that were fairly enjoyable were probably over Israel Palestine would be like Mark Lamont Hill and I think Nathaniel Robinson, the one writer dude. Although, I mean, that's a pretty low bar. Prior to that, there are people in my community that I enjoy speaking with, like Pisco. I enjoy debating. There's a guy called Rob Noor, who's fun to debate because factually he's very strong, even if we disagree. Yeah, I would say the vast majority of my conversations are dog shit because most people don't have a good factual engagement, and most people aren't really there to engage with like a high level of like trying to grapple with and understand what you're saying. They're just kind of looking for gotchas. So,
All right. And then the next question is from Nathan R. wondering if you have a favorite politician from any country, any political position.
Cringe.
no, not really. I don't think so. I don't think I would know enough about all the politicians or to, even in America to have like a favorite politician. No, I don't think so.
And Patrick Jane asks, when is Destiny going to debate Andrew Wilson on abortion and or other issues?
Probably never. I think we have some personal differences that make me not want to debate that guy.
Is that a Crucible guy?
Yeah.
I think that is. Yeah. Okay.
All right. And then we do have 2 VC questions lined up from the same person. I don't know if Jakub is here. It's a little difficult. I've never done this before where I'm
Yeah,
having
it's okay.
to
I can just
pick
let me
people
know.
up.
Let me know which one I want to bring up. Is he
Okay.
Hoob?
Jakub. I'll go ahead and ping.
Jakub? I got him.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yep.
I'm going to turn on my camera for this as well. So should I read the question directly?
No, just like engage however you want.
Sure. So from what I understand from Destiny's positions, he's mostly in favor of a sort of neoliberalism or capitalism. I would like to ask if, for his confirmation on that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it depends on what you mean by both of those, but I'd say roughly speaking, yeah, probably yeah.
So my question essentially was, why do you, Destiny, continue to promote liberal democracy when it fails to address the systematic issues caused by neoliberal capitalism? Because many people tend to view capitalism as inherently unequal, and being that liberalism mostly promotes individual liberty and individual values in the wider sphere of a democracy, why would a liberal democracy be the way forward?
I don't think that structure that produces inequalities is necessarily a bad structure. I think there's probably more things that I would look at to see if a particular structure is good or not. Obviously, the very elementary rejection of that would say a structure that produces an entire society equally of people that can only throw stones versus an unequal society that produces people that travel to space. I think the spacefaring society is going to be better there. I think that capitalism probably always has some form of hierarchy involved. But I mean, as long as we have other systems to deal with the negative external parts of capitalism, the fact that, or I guess you could say intrinsic parts of capitalism, as long as you've got like a government that can deal with some of the losers of capitalism through redistribution or welfare, other policies, I think that that's still probably the best way forward because it seems like it is the dominant economic mode on the planet right now that seems to produce like the most technology, the most material goods, the most advantageous stuff to have a thriving society.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's certainly the most prolific economic mode. But what I was pointing at here was that liberal democracy is often the antiquant or the antecessor to society which promptly votes liberal democracy out. So you see in many institutions before the October Revolution in Russia, Weimar Germany, before Trump's election in our time, you see a lot of situations where liberal democracy leads to a system that is not inherently protective of liberalism or democratic values.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. I think that as a culture, I think we need to address that more. I don't know if it's intrinsic to liberalism that it will seek to undo liberalism. I mean, I know that's happened historically, but I mean, obviously, I just try to push on the side of people that live in liberal democracies should appreciate them more. And I think that people should make more positive arguments for those systems because they tend not to. So yeah, liberal democracies host too much of their own criticism sometimes and not enough of their own exaltations. They don't hype themselves up enough. So I would hope that socially and culturally we can push in that direction. But I mean, that's about all I can say for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but much in the same way, as you mentioned itself, capitalism has a byproduct where some people that are inherently talented aren't going to be at the top of this scale. Only some people are going to make that advancement, and then we get progress like the spacefaring society example that you gave. But isn't there a more efficient system in order to ensure that someone like a struggling artist that fails to be recognized in a semi-capitalist society gets recognized? For example, we have state media that pushes certain, broad cultural messages at the expense of taxpayer funds. Doesn't that help? Stuff like PBS, for example?
Doesn't that help? What are you asking?
Well, it's beneficial in a way when a state promotes certain people who may otherwise be disadvantaged, and liberal democracies don't tend to do that very efficiently.
They don't promote people that would be disadvantaged?
Normally, no, especially when they're voted out.
Well, what would be an example of like another government style that has promoted disadvantaged people in a better way?
I think all throughout the world, there are governments who take a form of social democracy up. I mean, we can point to obvious examples such as Scandinavia. We can give more radical examples like China.
Well,
I mean, we can
Scandinavia,
say tons of negative things about China's government.
Sure, but if you look at like Scandinavia, I mean, it's a capitalist liberal democracy, is it not?
To an extent, it is, but it is less so than in the United States. When I took my U.S. citizenship test, it explicitly said that the U.S. is a market capitalist country, whereas a lot of these countries don't identify as market capitalists. They identify as a democratic socialist or social democratic system.
Social democrat and democrat socialists have nothing to do with the economic organization, I would say, generally. Sweden and Scandinavia, all of Scandinavia is still market capitalism, no?
To an extent, yes, but those countries more heavily regulate companies that would otherwise take larger powers, such as in the United States, were they not under such a system.
Yeah, I mean, in the U.S.,
Higher
I guess you
taxation.
can advocate for, or you can push for people understanding. I guess you can push for people to try to promote those things within your particular culture or society as well, right? Where are you from? What country?
I'm from Poland.
Okay.
I used to live in the U.S. I live in England now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, some things might be cultural too. Like I think in Sweden, I'm going to butcher this, but like I think there's a concept called like jantelagen or something where, they try not to have like people that stand out too much, or they try to, be more like collectivist or a part of their culture or society than like people that are showing off like flashy cars or watches and everything. So, I mean, like some of these will come down to cultural things, but at the end of the day, whatever Scandinavia does, there's nothing intrinsically that the United States can't do because fundamentally we share an economic organization. We share like a style of government. So if Sweden or Scandinavia does something better than the United States, it's not because intrinsically they're different than us. They've just decided to veer off more in that direction. And I think theoretically we could like veer off in that direction. There's nothing keeping us from doing it. And I don't see like another form of organization that would allow us to do it better, in my opinion.
Yeah, but if I can add to that quickly, I'm sure you're extremely aware of the fact that in the United States, there's a small subgroup within the Democratic Party that more promotes progressive politics, and that group doesn't largely determine the policies of the Democratic Party. So then we end up with people like Joe Biden in power, who are not necessarily progressive in themselves and have expressed anti-progressive views in the past, but nevertheless represent the entirety of the Democratic Party. And then we have those small parties, for example, the Democratic Socialist groups, or there's a party of socialism and liberation that end up with zero or no votes. So people who otherwise would be inclined towards progressive or socialist politics have to fall into that large group. So there really isn't a way for people who are more inclined towards that to influence policy in the United States.
Yeah, but that's just because their ideas aren't that popular. They shouldn't influence policy, right? If the question is a systemic one, and you're asking me like, what can the government do to represent these things? Then I tell you that the government can represent these things. But now it sounds like the question is more like a cultural one or a people one. Like I don't think that progressives should have much representation in government because they seem to be not that popular in the United States. If they were more popular, they'd have more representation. The problem there isn't one of structure or system. The problem is just how many people believe in a certain idea, I think.
But in liberal democracy, if an ideology is popular, you reckon that it should take power, even if it is antithetical to liberal democracy, for example, an authoritarian or far-right ideology? That could easily happen.
I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of how liberal democracy works, right? Yeah. That could be the case.
Yeah, but if it's antithetical to itself, capitalism seems to be much the same way, where it leads itself into decline.
I mean, people can say that, but we're sitting on the peak of like liberal democratic capitalism right now for all of society. I don't see a system on the planet right now that's doing it better. There are definitely problems with our particular organization, whether you're talking in the Democrat or on the government side or the economic side. But I mean, all we can do is critique it and work through it. It doesn't seem like there's a better way to do things right now that I'm aware of.
To what extent do you agree with regulation? So when it comes to like taxation and economic policies, at what point does it become ludicrous or authoritarian?
I don't think taxation or anything. I don't think any of that has anything to do with authoritarianism. I think that regulation is good. Capitalism solves for some problems incredibly well. Capitalism just allows you to move money around, capital, one might say, move money around from investors and workers and everything to incredibly efficient areas that produce lots of money or produce lots of profit. That's all it does. That's what capitalism does. So if there's money to be made, then money will flow to that in a more efficient way than in other systems of direct markets, of command economies or whatever. But capitalism can also produce external things that are really bad, like monopsonies or monopolies or environmental damage. And these types of external factors have to be accounted for by government. So government exists to regulate and to make things that would be external to a capital market, internal to a capital market. So if you take something like pollution that has no way of being accounted for in a capitalist society because you don't pay to pollute, and the government says, well, now you have to pay to pollute. Well, now hopefully a capitalist economy is solving for the problem of pollution because now there's a financial reward for doing so. So I'm always in favor of regulation when I think it can alleviate issues that aren't directly addressed by or solved for by capitalism.
Okay. I was mostly referring to the fact that a lot of people, including yourself, take up the mantle of liberal democracy and capitalism as something to be regarded as of high value. But I think you've clarified that you only agree with the system, if I'm getting this correctly, because it is the lesser of the two evils.
I mean,
or
every
if there is
single
no
thing
alternative that seems feasible.
I mean, everything in life is the lesser of two evils, or everything in life is the most viable alternative. I don't know if anything in life is perfect, right?
Isn't it philosophically better to strive for perfection and get as close as you can to it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know anything more perfect than a perfectly functioning liberal democracy, so that's what we're currently modifying and moving to make better, no?
I wouldn't call the U.S. a perfect example of a liberal democracy. I mean, you see all the kinds of domestic issues that happen within the country.
What would you hold up as a better example, then, that we should be moving towards?
I think I lived in Scandinavia briefly. I would say that Norway, where I lived, would be a good example to aim towards. But I realized that with the huge population of the United States and with the diverse ethnic makeup and with all other sorts of factors that differentiate the U.S. from Norway, that isn't exactly feasible. I think that you can take the argument.
If somebody, we'll say you live in Norway, let's say that the United States fancied itself as a Scandinavian country. What does Norway look like in 1950 with no liberal democracy of the United States? What is the outcome of things like World War II if the United States organized itself in a fundamentally different manner that didn't give it the productive capabilities and the foreign policy goals of, coming to Europe and intervening in that military conflict? Like, what does Norway look like after that?
Yeah, sure. So if we're aiming from a historical perspective, I would outright argue that if the United States had not intervened in World War II, the Soviet Union would have likely done the job.
Would have likely done what job?
The job of defeating Hitler in World War II. So if the argument that you're making is that Norway would be occupied under some other more authoritarian system were it not for the United States and market capitalism, largely, in fact, the American intervention was largely due to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who himself was not exactly a capitalist.
I don't think the Soviet Union could even make tires for their vehicles. Without things like Lend-Lease, ignoring the entire Western Front, there's no way the Soviet Union would have been able to fight against or fend off Germany. There's no shot, no?
Yeah, you could largely make the argument that the land leases helped a lot, but those would have happened regardless of whether the United States chose to enter the war. The land leases were present far before the United States entered the war with Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, but our
that's
organization
an entirely separate historical argument.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you can probably say that our organization as a democratic country with capitalism as our economic engine probably afforded us the ability to have the productive capacity that we did in order to support something like Lend-Lease and to have the political desire to do so. It's hard to imagine if we would have been fundamentally different politically, maybe we wouldn't have had the desire to help the Soviet Union at all. And if we would have been economically differentiated, maybe we wouldn't have had the ability to produce as much as we did and to ship it.
Well, from a historical perspective, from what I remember from American history, the U.S. economic boom and I guess the prominence of the dollar happened largely following World War II, along with the baby boom. So 1950s, 1960s. Prior to that, the United States was not viewed as the global protector or superpower of the world, regardless of whether it was a liberal democracy or not. That status largely came down to Great Britain, who lost its entire empire as a result of the war.
Okay. We can go back and forth on this, but I don't know. My feeling would be that
We can go back and forth on the history, which is why I didn't want to delve there.
Sure. I just feel like
also
after
believe
World
I
War
had a
One, I don't
second
know
question.
if we were like completely different. I'm not sure if it would have turned out the same, but maybe it would have. But yeah, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this could be a whole debate in and of itself, and I'm not here to take time away from other speakers. Joker, I had a second question that I asked just after this. Am I allowed to quickly touch on that?
I think that we should get to the next person. People are wanting to continue moving along. So,
Yeah, sure.
sorry to say, we'll be getting on to asking King Epic's question, and then we're going to bring up another person, Omni Liberal Lover, onto the mic. So let's get on to doing that.
All right. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank
Or
you so
Jacob.
much. Okay. King Epic requested, I was curious what or why you value human life and what or why you value human consciousness. I'd say human life
Wait,
is
never mind. No,
valuable
hold on.
to-
The two things I don't want to talk about because fuck me in the ass: abortion and veganism. Fuck all that. They can go and argue in the other servers. They can do that shit all day. I'm not doing this for for 2 hours. Fuck that.
Okay, gotcha. Let's go ahead and bring up Omni Liberal Lover then. Let's see. Okay. There we go.
Hey, what's up? So I had two questions. One was kind of to do with abortion, so I'm not gonna ask that one. But the other one was, do you get a lot of IRL hate?
No,
Like people
actually,
that-
basically none ever.
None ever? Wow, that's surprising.
I think that most people that like talk shit online, I think generally when I think it's just like an online thing, and then when they see you in real life, like I've met people in real life that have said they've shit talked me online, but everybody in real life is generally pretty chill. So yeah, I don't know. Unless maybe the people that don't like me in real life, if they see me, they just don't come up to me. So I don't know.
Okay, well, my other question was a lot longer, but you kind of cucked me, right before. But
Was it about morality or veganism?
yeah, it was sort of about morality. More to do with like, how would you debate someone who places moral consideration like on something that you can't conceptualize or that they can't conceptualize?
I mean, all you can really do is like try to show them or run down basically what the implications are of their assumptions and see if it maps on in the real world to a way that's like possible to live your life. I guess like that's all you can do is chase down the application of somebody's moral theory and see if it's congruent with how we'd live our lives or not. That's basically all you can do.
All right, yeah, thank you. Or one last question. Do you know when the Alex O'Connor interview comes out?
I think he said within a week or two, but
All right, thank you.
Okay. So I've got a person who wants to come up. She's actually a regular from your server, Big Papa or Group Banshee. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Hello. I actually have two questions. I'll give them both to you now, and then you decide if you hate either one of them. You can just skip them. The first question was, before you moved to more progressive or left-leaning positions, where did you get a lot of your news, and did you research your positions, or was that something that came with your new understanding? And the second question, completely different, what have been some of the most useful moves you've made in your YouTube career?
the first question was, where did I get my news from basically before I I think it really depends on the issue. For like pop culture topics, for things that would pop up, it might just be reading a couple articles. For things that are, like involve more understanding, so like COVID or vaccines, that's going to be like reading a lot of it'll be research papers, it might be posts by researchers, it might be twitlongers or tweets or debates that these guys participate in. It'll depend a lot on. All right, go ahead.
I focused more on before you went to more progressive and left-leaning positions, so I'm not sure if maybe your research has changed since.
Oh, so like way back when I was like a quasi-libertarian?
Yes.
I don't even know if I had much of a mind for like extensive research back then. I mean, before I started streaming, it was just listening to like conservative talk radio. So Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck. After that, it would just be
Larry Elder.
I don't think I'd listen to Larry Elder. But after that, it would be
Fuck.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, fuck. What did I even have an extensive debate about in like 20? I think in 2016 I was already kind of like bending towards a progressive way, or yeah, I definitely was because I supported Bernie Sanders. So I don't know if I did much extensive research back when I was like more libertarian and more conservative leaning.
Okay.
I just can't think of anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because I know you've said you were very argumentative all throughout your life. So I was wondering if there was any like other research that was.
It'd probably just be like simple Google searches and stuff. But the rigor that I would research things are going to be not that good. I don't even remember. It's been And then the second question was, what was the second question?
The most important or useful moves that you've made in your YouTube career or your streaming career in general.
I mean, probably like having an editor is really important. Trying to tailor content a little bit more YouTube friendly is really important. So instead of like gaming all day or doing really boring stuff, like trying to cover like current events or drama or subreddit stuff. Basically, having somebody else to work on things, like delegating work, is really important. And then focusing on things that are going to be more relevant to a YouTube audience. Those are probably the two most important things. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Next question that I've got is from Midget Fucker. What do you think about the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act in the United States? Do you think that this is an example of the U.S. government putting its finger on the scale on free speech to protect Israel?
I don't know how it would have impacted free speech at all. Did this actually, when it passed, what did this even affect? I feel like I looked into this at one point in time and it was just like adding this onto like potential hate crimes or whatever. I don't think it was a big deal at all. I don't think it did much at all. I don't think it matters that much at all.
I think the big criticism of it was, that I saw was basically it directs the Department of Education, if I remember correctly, or colleges to use a specific definition of anti-Semitism. And that definition of anti-Semitism includes like calling Israel a racist venture, I think is the exact thing.
Is there
something to that effect?
So if you call Israel racist, that counts as anti-Semitism?
Yes, that's my understanding. There's a specific definition, and that's one of the examples that they give of modern anti-Semitism. I forget what the exact wording is, but it's something like calling or the existence of Israel a racist venture, something to that effect. If people who say that Israel is an ethno state, and because it's an ethno intrinsically racist in some way, this would be considered anti-Semitism. That colleges would, and if this passes, I think it's gone through the Senate. I think if this passes, then colleges would be directed to use that definition, which could put a damper on free speech.
I don't know. That sounds stupid to me. If assuming what you're saying is true, then I would probably disagree with that. I mean, in the United States, you have a right to be racist if you want to be. You've got a right to be anti-Semitic if you want to be. Just not insofar as it comes to like making decisions about hiring people or about treating your employees a certain way or discriminating against certain people. But I would have to know the exact application, I guess, of this particular law. Like people are saying it only affects like funding for colleges. I see people spamming that. I don't know if that's true or not, but
I don't think that's true.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I generally fall like pretty hard on the free speech side, so there'd have to be a pretty compelling argument for why the state should limit speech in this manner for me to be in favor of it. Is this something that actually passed? Like, is this something that is like in law right now, or is this something you said it was just in the Senate right now?
No, it hasn't been signed yet. I think it's in the Senate right now. I think it has passed one house. I'll just Google it really quickly while we're here. But my understanding, I don't want to be telling you or your audience like the wrong information. If the person who asks a question wants to come up, just ping me. I'll bring you up.
Mm-hmm.
But my understanding is, it's directing them to use this definition when they're investigating hate speech or violations of a specific code, which is used to determine whether something's a hate crime or hate speech.
I mean, I don't mind, like, I would have imagined that anti-Semitism is already part of, like, what would be considered hate speech. I would have imagined that. So, I mean, if they're like, adding it onto that, I don't think that's necessarily bad. But, I mean, obviously, you have to be careful not to overstep. Like, you should be able to be critical of a religion, and you should be able to be critical of a country without it being considered hate speech. So, I guess it would just depend on the exact definitions of that, yeah.
Okay. So next up is sheep. If that person wants to come up, just DM me. I'll bring you up. You want to expand on that a bit? Sheep, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Hey. I was told to refer to you as Mr. Tortellini.
Okay.
You at all worried about the relation between the left and Islam? considering the left is constantly running defense for Islam, and Islam is usually othering or intending to maybe harm the left, or what is majority of the left. LGBT and atheists.
What is? Or I'm sorry. What is the question?
So I personally, I think there's a gap between the Islam and the left, because when you're an atheist, you're a blasphemer. You're not you're not a Muslim, But also the LGBT is not acceptable in Islam.
I think that when people on the left, I think that people on the left end up coming across as supportive of Islam for a few different reasons, but I don't think it's because they support the religion itself. I think it's because they see it oppositionally to like white Christians, and they will always hate those people. So they'll support like the other side implicitly if it's opposed to Western people, if it's opposed to white people, generally probably if it's opposed to Christian people or the United States. And then I think progressives also have a really hard time criticizing minorities for literally any reason whatsoever. So I think this is why it ends up looking like they support Islam, but I don't think like a progressive or a leftist in a vacuum would support it. They just end up doing it because of how these other factors play out. That's what it feels like to me.
All right, and a quick follow-up, and this is just me not understanding U.S. politics, but is the U.S. a constitutional republic or a democratic republic? Like, what is it?
Isn't it both?
I'm not sure.
There are things that both these things mean, but I don't even remember. What is, I mean, we have a constitution and we have a democracy, so, and there's a reason why we're a republic. I don't remember what republic means. Fuck. Let me wiki it real quick. A state in which political power rests with the public through their representatives. I thought that was just a representative democracy. I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're all three of those things. I've heard republic, democracy, or democratic republic. But I mean, like, what is there like a deeper question, or is it just like what are the words? Are we the things that the words say that we are, or?
No, I was just under the impression that maybe the left was very interested in just referring to it as a democracy and not wanting the republic part of it, constitution and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just I've heard them refer to it as both and other things.
Huh. Okay.
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Thanks.
So anything else, Sheep?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got, I don't know how to pronounce it. So I'm going to try Fikes, whatever her name is now. Throughout. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, can I be
Sorry,
heard?
just fucking with you.
Yes.
Right. Hi. So I just have a really quick question. Is my cam on?
Yes, it is. You are
Okay.
a beautiful cat. It's very nice.
Do you think it's morally acceptable for Christy Noam to euthanize a puppy because it was inconvenient? And do you think the people who condemn her are being unreasonable?
Yeah, I don't know anything about this. I don't care if you want to euthanize dogs, go for it. I mean, we already eat animals, so if you want to euthanize them, knock yourself out. I guess I don't really care.
So you don't think there's anything wrong with just killing animals, like just because you want to?
I mean, we already do that, don't we? Socially.
Yeah, but it seems like most people, when they actually think about it, they actually are gonna have issues with it usually.
Probably. Well, then they can make it illegal. But personally, I don't give a fuck about it. So.
But you don't care about? Why don't you care about animals?
Because I eat them.
So if you didn't eat them, you would care? So you're just saying that you'd say that you don't care because it'd be inconvenient because you have to stop eating them?
I think if I had like an ethical foundation where I valued the lives of animals, I think that I would probably care a lot if dogs were being killed, but I don't, and I eat animals, so they.
Do you even value the lives of humans?
I do value the lives of humans, yeah.
Why do you value the lives of humans?
Because they're so much better and superior to animals. We rule all of them.
Do you think that because Americans are superior to non-Americans, it'd be okay for Americans to eat non-Americans then?
Yes.
Like just kill them?
Especially British people.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else?
No, I'm finished on that.
Okay. Yeah, and I noticed you used the word people pretty liberally there, applying to the British. Next up is focus notice. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Or Mrs. Or them, whatever.
I noticed you do a lot of research on Google. I think Google.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. I can't. You can't do the chipmunk voice. You can talk, but don't do the voice changer chipmunk thing, please. I beg you. So I'll give you a chance to turn it off, and then we'll try again. Okay. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Well, Lindsay, thanks for the host.
Sorry, it was my headphones.
That's
Hey,
okay.
Destiny. I know you do a lot of research on Google, and I feel like Google is declining in quality, and there's a bunch of AI research engines, and I just feel like in the majority of your streams, you're always using Google search engine to search through academic papers and stuff. Do you ever see yourself using Perplexity or ChatGPT or the smaller models that they have that are trained on academic papers or comprehensive sources? Anytime, do you see potential benefits there or drawbacks using AI tools?
I'm sure there might be benefits in the future. Right now, I'm not convinced that an AI tool is better than a human at sorting through a paper and figuring out what's important and what's not important and how impactful a certain paper or author should be. So I don't trust AI extraction from a wide variety of sources to give me good information.
Got it. That's all. Thanks, guys.
Okay. I've got a couple more people before I'm going to toss back the Joker. So next up is Megalo Pooley. You're up next, Mr.
Hey, you guys can hear me good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear a lot of people arguing about like what economic model, like capitalism, etc., is best, and I do agree with you, Destiny, that capitalism is the best thing we do have, and there's nothing better. But if you look at Canada pre-74, we owned our central bank and used it as intended. We borrowed money at 0% interest. We put the people to work, set up our country as a peacekeeping nation, set up social services. We owned our railways. But post 74, we changed how it works, and we essentially borrow from financial markets at interest. And at this point, we can no longer like service our national debt just with taxpayer dollars. It's getting out of hand. So I think capitalism, the idea can exist in different economic models, and I think that the people need to stop arguing about capitalism and actually figure out a monetary system that's more equitable for everyone, because capitalism is just us trying to find the gap, right? And if we have a system that like runs away on itself with the inflation that it does, people like me and you that get unprecedented access to liquidity can arbitrage that market. And that's why people are upset at capitalism. I think if we change the monetary system to be more equitable, like Canada pre-74.
Why did Canada change their system if it was better?
To be a part of the Bank of International Settlements, we had to.
Why did they? Well, why
Pierre
did they?
Trudeau.
Why did they have to be a part of the Bank of International Settlements?
Pierre Trudeau basically in 74 deregulated our monetary system so we could borrow money from financial markets at interest. And then his son printed 73% of our fucking entire currency into existence, right? So like we're basically enslaved to the corporate oligarchs at this point.
Yeah, I don't know enough about why Canada changed their banking system to.
Well, I mean, you don't need to know the why necessarily. You just have to look at like the national debt growth and the amount of tax revenue we can generate. And you see post 70, like pre 74, we had like a flat line of our national debt. When we changed this one parameter in 74, starting to borrow money at interest from private markets, our national debt started to grow exponentially. That's why in Canada, things have gotten a lot worse for healthcare, for all our social services, because it's harder and harder for us to fund this because all we're doing is pouring our money into our national debt and having to borrow more money for our social services. Right, so capitalism is fine, but when you have the overarching monetary system structured in such a way that it's not going to be equitable and has a short lifespan, you're going to have these problems.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know enough about. I probably wouldn't believe any of what you're saying without doing like independent research on my own first. Generally, anytime somebody presents a singular thing as causing so many different problems, it's almost always not the case. I would be surprised if I were to do any reading to find out that Canada's economy was going splendidly, and then all of a sudden they change one thing, and that's where all of our ills can be traced back to. Even just looking up like things like that's fine, but like even just like Googling like inflation charts or whatever, like it looks like your country was having a massive run up in inflation right up until until 1974 when they changed it. And then that's what, like, you were hitting, like, it looks like double-digit inflation before that. And this was like one of the motivating factors for changing how the central bank was running. But I don't know enough about Canada's, like, the history of the monetary policy candidate to say how important this was, but it doesn't look like things were going well, and then you changed it and now it's all fucked. It feels like you're trying to blame a lot of stuff on this one thing.
Just having the paradigm shift from owing money to your central bank at 0% interest, and you're just borrowing money into existence to put people to work to give that money value, versus owing money at interest and constantly have to print new money and new money and new money to service the old debt. And then each next go around, the liabilities increase. So the amount of debt that you have to have is increasing. So it gets away on itself, right?
Well, if you don't lend money at interest, why would anybody ever buy bonds from Canada? How are you ever going to raise money if you're not paying interest?
We did it up until 1974. We set up our country as a peacekeeping nation. We set up social services, Medicaid.
But it seems like you were running into huge issues prior to 74 with inflation. You were running up to like double-digit inflation in like the decade prior to that. And you have no way to raise money externally if you're not paying interest. Nobody's going to buy Canadian debt if there's no interest on it.
Well, that's true, but if money is created by means of law, why is it given to a private entity to produce for the nation? It's just a means of exchange.
Well, because at some point that money has to be reducible to something real. There has to be something backing that money up in order for people to want to.
In Canada, if you look at the laws, they've changed at this point. The banks require $0 on reserve to borrow money. We can print money into the sky infinitely as the laws have changed now. They don't need any reserves on tap.
It's not backed up with a theoretical fractional reserve requirement. It's probably backed up with the strength of the Canadian economy. You have to make the argument for why a foreigner should want to hold Canadian dollars, or why, like, a Canadian will want to hold Canadian dollars because you can buy, or you can probably pay Canadian taxes with it. But like, why would a foreigner want to hold Canadian dollars? Or why would somebody want to buy or sell things in Canadian dollars if they're trading with the country of Canada? Or why would...
No, you're probably right, but I think like the whole point of what I was trying to get at is people are arguing about capitalism, and I think that capitalism can exist within different kinds of monetary systems and structures that will have different outcomes. I just think this particular one that we have right now lends very well to people like me and you that have good access to liquidity and can use that to our advantage, right?
I don't understand what you mean when you say that. Access to liquidity, like plenty of people can have access
to.
Like
when you have money, like I have my own business, right? So I'm able to like go to the bank and get loans, right? I have assets, and I know that you have assets too. If you were to go to the bank and be like, okay, give me a loan for $500,000. Sure,
I don't think that has anything to do with the monetary policy of the United States. No, I can go to a private lender and get.
But what it does is allow me and you to borrow money into existence and spend it at face value. Well, it's essentially, driving inflation within our society because that money's being added to the supply. All a loan is a promissory note, right? The bank isn't in the business of loaning money; they're in the business of issuing securities. Right?
Is there an example of a country with a successful monetary policy that doesn't have a central bank or loan money to people or sell bonds at interest? Is there any examples of this?
Well, I don't know, and I can't answer that question. And to me, I think it probably is where we need to start having the discussion and having more people that are intelligent having this discussion, because this economic model, I don't think lasts very, very long. I think it has a lifespan. In my country, anyways, in Canada, people can barely afford homes, right?
But is it the barely affording homes? Is that a result of the interest rates of the bank, or is that a result of a lot of people are just going to Canada and there's not much construction of homes for people to move into?
I think it's a multivariate equation, right? I think a lot of the immigration and the policy surrounding it and people wanting people to come in. We have a lot of baby boomers that want to keep their properties up, that do not want to change building codes so we can build more stuff. Canada's got so much land per person. There's no excuse for us to just not be building homes. It's not like we're restricted in that sense, but people don't want to build more homes. They want their property values to go up. They have no issue with immigration because that's only going to drive their property up. But it's like you have two different economies. You have old people that want something, and then the younger generation that feels like they're getting fucked. This is why everyone's against capitalism and everything, right?
Sure, but at this stage, this has nothing to do with capitalism capitalism or the economy or whatever. This just has to do with like policies of the state, right? Like this same thing could happen under literally any other form of economic organization, and it could be alleviated under capitalism. It's just a matter of like state policies, like either fiscal policy or other things like zoning or whatever else, or subsidiaries given to certain things or whatever else, right? I don't know if this has anything to do with capitalism or like.
Well, if the largest issuance of debt is probably a mortgage, you would have to back that up, right? So you would be doing things to prop up the housing market, like bringing immigration in, like these bad policies, etc. I think it's a necessary evil because you got all these loans, all this money that needs to be serviced. You can't let it fall in on itself. If you start building stuff, well, property values are going to go under and people are going to be underwater in their loans. They don't want that. So by necessity, you'd be like, okay, let's bring in immigration. Let's do this. Let's do that. So you could talk about the policies or the reason why they're doing the policies in the first place.
Even if I were to grant all of that as being true, we could literally delete the monetary policy of the banks and say that and say there's no central bank now. It's just going to be all private lenders. You would still have literally the exact same problem. No?
Well, wouldn't private lenders have to have equity on hand to be able to lend it out and wouldn't be in the business of issuing a security?
No, why would you have to have equity on hand?
Well, if I'm going to loan you money, you ask me for $20, I pull $20 out of my wallet and I loan it to you and say, hey, you got to pay me $25 back. I'm still pulling my $20 and loaning it to you. When a bank is issuing a security and you're signing a promissory note and you're finding money in their account, they're not lending you that money. They're issuing a security.
Yeah, but a bank can do that without any central bank or interest rates, right? Let's say I want to go and buy a house. Let's say I want to go buy a house, okay? And I need like $1 million mortgage or whatever to do it. I could go to a private lender who says, "Yeah, sure, I've got you for the $1 million," and then I basically have that private lender give me a promissory note, and then I go to the person selling the house, and then I just give them that guarantee. They don't necessarily need like all of that cash liquid from the lender. They could just have like that note, and they could either take payments or draw interest or whatever. My guess is that's probably already how the system more or less works.
Are there private lenders that are in the businesses of issuing securities? As I understand it, I thought they have to have assets on hand to be able to lend it out. Like that's OPM, other people's money, right? I had horrible credit growing up, right? And had to, for any of my loans for businesses, I had to go through other people's money, which is them having money on hand or going to someone that has money and being like, hey, I know you're a heart surgeon. Loan me $50,000. I'll pay you the X amount back. That guy already made the money and is lending it to me, right? So,
I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it depends on what you're buying or selling. Like in the case of a house, that's an asset that's not going anywhere. If somebody's lending money for somebody to purchase it and somebody else wants access to money, like you're going to have, I imagine, a book that has like a balance sheet of like debts and assets. And some of those assets can be money promised to you by other organizations or other entities that you can like loan against or spend in one way or another. Like I don't think in a system without a central bank. Wait, this is what I'm fundamentally saying. Tell me if you agree this goes. In a system without a central bank, not every single transaction has to be 100% liquid, even without central banks. Do you agree or disagree with that? Do you think that absent a central bank, do you think that every single transaction is 100% liquid?
You're right. It doesn't have to be, but if it's not liquid, there has to be some sort of contractual agreement behind it, right?
Sure, but that's just going to be the contractual agreement is just going to be the entities that are securing the debt.
But the money, where's the money come from in this? If a private lender is lending you money and they still have to put the money up.
No, they don't. You don't need the money. You just need it. You just need an owance to the money. You just need a guarantee that you'll have the money at some point, or like a note about the money. You don't need the actual money. You just need an asset that you can trade or buy and sell against to other people, right? You don't need the actual money. You just need to be able to say that you have access to that money, right? It's credit.
I mean, you can have credits with businesses and shit like that, right? Whether it's parts companies or you look at any of the big trucking companies. I have credit accounts with all of them, but it's still, this money still has to be produced, and they still have to have the physical part on hand. Yeah, they're giving me credit and giving me the part, but they put money out of their own pocket to buy the part, to stock it on the shelf, to give me credit with the part, but they still had to put money down. Right?
Maybe. I mean, but it depends on how much they have to put money for. I don't know why. I think you're very fixated on this like money thing. but like a lot of people work on credit. Like if I go to Walmart and I buy a physical candy bar that I consume immediately, I can buy that on credit. Like that would extend to literally anything else. If you buy a vehicle as a business from another company, you're probably buying it on credit. For the people that manufacture that vehicle, they probably buy parts en masse on credit. Like you can use credit as long as you've got like reliable creditors and reliable debtors or whatever.
I think we're missing the point of where the money is created, right? When a private lender isn't creating money into existence, they're not signing a promissory note saying, "Okay, you'll find $500,000 in your account." They're giving you an asset that they've put money into, whether it's a vehicle, right? They're going to finance you and give you credit. They've put the money out to build the vehicle, right? You deployed capital. They didn't create capital out of thin air and give it to you.
I think can't you create capital out of thin air?
Well, that's what.
If somebody let's say somebody deposits $1,000 with me, and I'm holding onto this deposit, and two different people come up to me and they say, "Hey, I need to like take out a loan, or I need to make like a big purchase here. Will you loan me $1,000?" Depending on like what asset they're purchasing and how secure that asset is, I could back up like multiple people wanting $1,000 with only a single $1,000 deposit, right? Because when they go to make another purchase with the loan guarantee that I've given them,
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that.
Okay, then you can literally can invent money out of nowhere with promissory notes and with guaranteeing with credit, right?
The problem is like the bank is the one that's creating that liquidity, and I think these secondary lenders that you're talking about have equity and liquidity in something, whether it's an asset, whether it's a truck they're going to sell you, whether it's whatever. They still had to deploy capital to be able to give you that credit. They just look at whether you're trustworthy enough to pay them back their money. They put money in a truck. Like the truck isn't created out of thin air like the $500,000.
Yeah, but when we say the truck isn't created out of thin air, like to some extent it can be, but it's not thin air. It's off of like future cash flows, right? You could theoretically have an entire economy where literally no actual dollar exists, but everybody's still loaning money and lending money and promising each other money because of future cash flows that are ideally going to come from whatever economic activity is spurred on from the lending. No, I don't
disagree with that, but do these secondary lenders have the ability to create money, is what I'm saying. No, they're redeploying capital and giving you a credit on that asset in hopes that they're going to generate revenue on it, right? So if they build a truck, they paid for the labor, they paid for the materials, they paid for the parts. The real tangible money is in this process, right?
Well, we don't even know where the real tangible money is. Like, how often do you even see real tangible money? Like, in that whole process, a lot of these deposits are done nowadays, like fucking digitally. Like, you might have a direct deposit paycheck that goes into a bank. You don't actually ever see the real money. And then you might buy things on a credit card, and all of these like trades are settled in, for stock markets, it's like T+2, like the actual dollars aren't even trading hands. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think any of this, or I don't know if I understand what you're saying, but I don't think any of this is like intrinsic to having a central bank or not. Like, I think that all of these issues exist in economies where you have like fiat currency and people that are dealing with like future cash flows and everything else. I don't think anything here is intrinsic to a central bank, I think.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of people who want to get
Yeah. No, good. Just look into the pre-1974, post-1974 Canada and dig into that rabbit hole when you get a chance. It's interesting.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm talking back to Joker. I think you have some people ready.
Next up is Smiley.
Smiley, I don't know why you're showing us your car steering wheel, but we can see that.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
It's okay.
All right. So, I've been reading about human rights recently, and surprising how many governments engage in transactional diplomacy, where we'll give you this if you ignore our human rights. The U.S. ignores Israel, a lot of things. A lot of African countries ignore Chad, stuff like that. So I wanted to ask your opinion on this and what you think governments and people can do to get people to pay more attention to human rights, because I think that it's enabling more human rights violations. Thank you.
You petition the government, you vote on certain politicians that you think will uphold the things that you think are important. The most important way you can make your voice heard is through the representatives that you vote for. And then, you can protest, or you can have decisions that your companies are making. You boycott people based on the decisions they make. But Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really all you can do, right? Like, no individual can direct government policy. If you think there's a human rights violation that's bad enough that's worth protesting or boycotting a country or a company over, you can do that, or you can dedicate your vote to it. But that's typically how we do things in this society, right?
All right. Yeah, that's pretty quick. If I have one more question that might be a bit harder to answer. Do you think that there's ever a circumstance where human rights violations should be ignored if that country is very important?
I don't know if you'd ever say that it should be ignored, but I mean, like, everything is some kind of like balanced equation, right? To where, like, if there is an ally that engages in behavior that we would find really abhorrent, but like geostrategically they are of a high level importance, then I mean, they would have more leverage, I guess, to engage in that abhorrent behavior. I mean, obviously there's going to be some line I would hope that we would draw, but I mean, on a huge global stage, it's going to be weighing like the pros and the cons of dealing with any country. Where certain human rights violations, I would imagine, would just add to the con side. Yeah.
All right. That's pretty much all I had to ask. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Next is Chudson.
Oh, yo. What up?
Hi.
Oh, wait, I need to fucking grab my question. I was not ready yet. I thought it was going to be a while. Hold on. Yeah, so do you agree that nuclear energy is a vital part in securing energy independence from China and the Middle East for the collective West, as opposed to solar and oil?
As opposed to? No. I mean, as a part of, sure. I mean, I hear problems with nuclear energy relating to the cost of like insuring it against disaster. But I mean, aside from that, nuclear energy seems to be like pretty good. I don't think I've heard like a strong argument against it completely, but I think solar and wind are important parts too, no?
No, I agree, but the fact is that a lot of the resources required to produce solar panels are located in China. And in this, in this future multipolar world where China's most likely going to be a rival of the USA, I think that, building a dependence on resources from China in order to build solar panels is not something good.
I guess then it'd probably be good for us to start manufacturing them or manufacture them in Europe.
No, but the resources that
China's the only country on the planet that has the resources to create solar panels.
No, but the vast majority of resources, that certain resources that are required to produce solar panels.
Okay, that's not my understanding. I mean, if that was the case, then I would say that maybe it's worth taking a look at that. But I mean, right now we have access to the Chinese economy, so I mean, I imagine we would continue to buy shit from China. But
yeah. But I'm just saying, like, in a future world, right? I think that energy independence would be a vital part of the collective West strategy.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I would think so. I think I get a little bit nervous when people talk about building more and more independence, though, because I think dependence in some ways probably makes us more likely to be peaceful with each other and less likely to go to war with each other.
Yeah, but I think most people can see the writing on the wall that we're moving into a world that is less friendly. Countries are less likely to cooperate with each other these days. And the world seems more and more divided into political and economic blocks as opposed to everyone working together. So that's why I brought that up.
Okay. Well, rather than accelerating that, I would hope that we would go back to working together more. That'd be my hope. But
yeah, I can understand having that hope, but I personally I don't see that happening.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way,
thank you,
Joker's a
Chudson.
mummy voice.
Oh, there he went. Okay, Pig, you're up next.
Oh, hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Hello.
Yes.
Oh, hi. Wow, sorry. Wait, let me get my my question. There. I'm sorry. Okay, there you go. I actually wanted to ask you this on the Israeli meetup. I was there, but the big buffy security guard took you away before we could. I wanted to ask you, how would you argue against the? I mean, I see a lot of people talking about Hamas being a justified resistance, breaking out of prison, and it just seems like it's hard to get a something just like an argument against it across people, because people are, I guess, so much worked up on like movie media, and think that, like, kind of like how in college right now there's all these LARPers that are trying to make it seem like they're a part of a revolution. I just want to ask, like, how would you kind of argue against that in the best way?
I mean, you can separate a people's like motivation for war and the way that they conduct war. I think you can argue maybe that Palestinians have some right of resistance against Israel, but that right of resistance will never extend over to like the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians or other actions, like hostage taking or rape or whatever else. So I mean, that's why I would separate it. And Hamas obviously engages in methods of warfare and types of warfare that are highly antagonistic towards civilians and engaging in like war crime like behavior as a matter of policy. So I mean, you can argue against it on that front. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I have another question. Is I get stuck. I'm sorry. I guess I'm just getting debates 101 here. I see that it's, I guess, for like people who aren't very political, it's kind of hard to talk about the war in Gaza, since a lot of times you'll just have people going, children are dying, which is awful, but you'll just have people go, children are dying, so the war could stop. And obviously, I think like that's ridiculous. But like, how do you get across to something like that, to just like be like, you know what I mean? I'm sorry if I don't
I mean, if
make
you're
sense.
asking me, if we're like, yeah, what is like the surefire way to like destroy a particular conspiracy theory or to help somebody that's not as politically literate like agree with you on an idea? I mean, I can't just solve that. That's like the hardest question ever.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I
Sure.
mean, people have beliefs. I mean, you can challenge them by introducing certain facts and having them account for those facts. You can, have certain arguments and ask them, like, well, would you be okay with anybody else doing this? Like, there's a lot of small rhetorical strategies, but there's not going to be like an easy silver bullet for how do I completely 180 somebody's opinion on this particular conflict, especially when there's a whole bunch of social incentive and peer pressure to believe a certain thing. So,
yeah. Well, I guess you're not as, I can't believe you can't solve that. That's honestly very disappointing.
I'll try in the future.
Maybe in the future. Yeah, that's basically is it. Thank you very much for your time. Also, thank you for signing on my keepa in the Israeli meetup.
No problem. Have fun. Be careful. Stay safe.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
I've got a few more before I'll switch it back to Dooby. I'll pull up Darth Cetius, if you're here.
Did he die?
Is his mic even on?
Darth, he's turning on his camera.
Okay.
If you're speaking, we can't hear you. We can see you. You're a kidnapping ban. We can't hear you. Yeah, Darth, we can't hear you. Sorry, I think. So why don't we just move on to the next person, and then Darth, if you can figure that out, we'll jump right back to you. Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
So instead, let's pull up Zernov. Zernov, are you here?
Of course I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Unfortunately, I do not have a camera, but I do have a microphone.
Okay.
I do have a couple of questions for you, Destiny.
Yep.
The first one is, why not offer deals we have made for other countries, like Bosnia and Kosovo, for the Israel-Palestine conflict?
Like what specifically?
Like the Dayton Peace Accords or the UN Resolution 1244, or maybe even the Brussels Agreement of 2013.
Like,
I don't know how
what
much
would the
you've read up
specific
on it.
application look like in this conflict?
Well, whenever we're looking at the Dayton Peace Accords, like in Bosnia, we would either set up a one-state solution where we would have multiple representatives, and we would have a high commissioner like we have in Bosnia, where you'd have a third party that could be arranged from both sides, from the Arabs and the Jews. That way, you wouldn't have one nationality having full power over the country.
Well, it seems like in the case
Like-
of Israel and Palestine, it doesn't
No.
seem like either side is keen on having that solution. So I don't know how you would like force that on both people.
I agree that there is no willingness to do it, but there wasn't a willingness in Bosnia to do it either. But we still enforce it on them just for the sake of peace. So if they're going to continue fighting, and if we want peace, I think this is the best way to stabilize them. But that would be if somebody's willing to just put pressure on both sides.
I would have to. I would have. My guess is going to be these situations probably aren't analogous to each other enough that I don't know if Bosnia had any international support whatsoever for its existence, and I don't know if the claims to the land and the disagreement between both people would have manifested the same way there. The history of Israel-Palestine makes it a little bit unique in terms of figuring out like what the land divided should look like. I mean, if you can give me like a potential solution for what you think would work, and I can tell you why I think it would or wouldn't work. But I think for Israel-Palestine, if you say that like, well, we should just force both sides to accept a one-state solution, the fact that neither side seems to want that solution, I would say you're at a very bad starting point for that. But I don't know how similar the situations were in Bosnia in terms of both people being willing to have a.
Well, in Bosnia, it's a little bit more complex because we had three sides. But the situation was that we had the Bosnian Muslims, the Catholic Croatians, and the Orthodox Serbians. The Serbians had a support from Yugoslavia and its military forces, which was more supported through paramilitaries and forced retiring its troops and then leaving them in Bosnia. And they controlled about 70% of the territory, and everybody was fighting each other. But when they realized that the Serbs were going to ethnically cleanse the other two sides, the Bosniaks and the Croats, aligned with themselves. And what happened was during the peace agreement or during the peace conversations, the side that didn't want to back down, which was the Serbs, continued having the will to fight. And because the Bosniaks and the Croats were in more of a need for arms and more resources, they were willing to give concessions to the U.S. and to NATO, which then led to the Dayton Peace Agreement after 2.5 years.
So what ended up getting? I guess what ended up getting settled then, or what?
Well, because the Serbians didn't want to agree to the peace accords, the U.S. did an air bombing campaign after the shelling in Bosnian populated areas in Sarajevo, which caused the Serbians to lose 21% of the land of Bosnia and to do a massive retreat, which caused Srebrenica and all of the ethnic cleansing in eastern Bosnia, which then led to the Serbians being forced to sign a peace agreement because Yugoslavia was no longer willing to support them, and the U.S. was putting, bombers and air raids all on their positions and troops.
So if Israel were to accept this agreement and the Palestinians weren't to accept this agreement, we would start bombing the Palestinians until they would accept it?
We would only bomb military positions the same way that Israel is doing right now.
Do you think that people would accept that? Would NATO bombing any part of the Gaza Strip or the West Bank?
Also, I
don't know.
don't think people would agree. No.
Okay, and then also I don't know anything. I don't. My European history sucks for this time period. Aren't these all like separate states now? Like Serbia, Croatia,
Bosnia. Yeah.
So how is that still how is that one state? It sounds like wouldn't you be breaking these things into different states then instead of one state, or?
The problem is that Bosnia itself is like 50% Bosnian, 30% Serbian, and 17% Croatian. So Bosnia is still like as a nation, it's still a massive shit show with the border lines and the way that their inner interactions are going. They have like one of the biggest bureaucracies in the world because of the problems that they have between the ethnicities, even 25 years after that.
Huh.
But because of the High Commissioner, they're able to move on and continue passing laws, even if one of the sides disagrees with the laws being passed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think that there's like a particular solution that Israelis and Palestinians can both agree on right now for one state. So I feel like if you try to force it on them, I don't know if that would work fine. I feel like you'd still have like a fuck ton of conflict between the two sides.
I definitely agree that we can't instantly force it on them, but starting with slow pushes, we can definitely slowly start to make them more malleable towards something like the Dayton Peace Accords or Kosovo. But we don't have to get into it. I don't want to take everybody's time too much on that one question.
Okay.
The second question that I had is, what is your thoughts on territorial integrity versus self-determination?
I think territorial integrity is probably integral right now to like global security. I don't think you can have self-determination where different groups of people can just break off and make new states right now. I think we're kind of like past that point in how the world functions. So, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. The third question is, how interested are you in the Balkans, Yugoslav Civil War, the economy of the Balkans, and what's going on there? And if you / Americans even care?
I don't have any information. I don't know. I could say I don't care. That sounds cool, but I haven't studied that, and I don't have any.
As a Balkan person, I fully understand if you don't.
Okay.
The last question is, what kind of events should we expect you doing for this election / YouTube in real life?
Probably the same as before. Debates, reading, arguing with people. Yeah.
And final question. I know I didn't write this one down. It's just a simple question. What are your feelings on industries that have stopped innovation for the sake of the industry being kept as large as it is, like the glass industry and the light bulb industry? Others.
I don't even know if that's true. I don't know enough about it to have an opinion on it. So I would say obviously stopping innovation is bad, especially if it's the artificially cabin industry, but I don't know enough about either of those to have a strong opinion on them. So
okay, that's all. You have a great day.
Yep.
Darth is back.
We're going to try again.
Yeah.
Sure.
Darth, let us know if you can.
Yep. Yeah, all right, there we go. Now it's working. Sorry about that, guys. Hey, Destiny, how's it going?
Hi, what's up?
Oh, doing the thing, working. Anyways, so basically I'm a centrist, an extreme centrist. And I know you used to be kind of like a libertarian. I guess you would call it centrist, however it'd be. Do you think the two-party system really is the way to go, or do you think it is time to evolve to the next level in American politics and society to create more of a federalist society, but instead of it being centralized to Washington, D.C., it's in the states, like all 50 states essentially, and we have something called the Chamber of Representatives, because in our Constitution, I know it's old and outdated and whatever, like people like to say. However, I love the Constitution, and it says one representative per 30,000 citizens. That's a lot of people. So if that truly was to be evolved and set to the next status quo, I mean, you'd need something like the Chamber of Representatives. And what's your opinions on that a little?
I don't think our Constitution is outdated at all. I think it still works pretty well. I personally, I think that a two-party system with like a diversity of candidates to vote for in different elections, I think serves us pretty well. I think in general, I'm pretty okay with a two-party system. Like 55% okay with it. There might be arguments against it, but I mean, every organization or every organized form of government or form of government organization seems to have issues with it. And I'm okay with what we have now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just for me, just as an assistant, I'm 27. I've voted 3 times now. Get ready to vote for the 4th time. I think it's like that. Maybe it's it's about like that. It's just there's a lot of people like me, for example, and other people. Our voices just get freaking drowned because we do have people who are on the right. They like their people, and that's the end of it. There's no debate about it. And then there's people on the left. They do the same thing. And it's always like this every election cycle I've been around. It's just like, we know that the obvious political parties are not going to be able to like be popular in this country ever. So it's like, if we let the curtain down completely and then let everyone, have their voices heard and have debates where we have Republican, Democrat, yada yada yada, I think it would serve the interest of the American public better, because I would say that there's a majority of us who we're just not Republicans or Democrats. We're just the American public.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's a diversity of candidates inside the Republican Party and inside the Democratic Party. Like, you've got a huge range of people, from your Kirsten Sinemas to your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's, from your Joe Bidens to your Bernie Sanders. Like, it runs the gamut. Like, your Ted Cruz's to your Donald Trumps. Like, I think there's a decent variety of candidates within the parties. I think that within each state, I think you've got, like, pretty different candidates. Like, if you go to really blue states, you're going to get candidates that are much further to the left. If you go to more purpley states, you're going to get candidates that are more in the center. If you go to very red states, you get candidates that are more on the right. If you want to introduce multiple parties here, I mean, I guess you can, but I don't think that it would meaningfully change the political landscape that much, which is my opinion.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I have to do this. So I'm kind of, I do the abortion stuff sometimes too, but I'm not someone who's like pro-life completely or pro-choice completely. Like, why can't we all meet to the middle? 8 weeks to be the limit, I think ethically it seems to be the best for anyone. I mean, you have 2 months to decide if you want to harbor a life or not, And yeah, I know people on the right, they're like, oh no, instantly, no, you can't abort whatever. And then like you have people who are just too loose on the problem, in my opinion, and I think they go like to the extreme, like
Sure, but just to be clear,
and,
like, abortion is pretty binary. You're not centrist on that. You're pro-choice, right?
It is. Well, yeah, I would be more pro-choice, but like a common sense stance. You know what I mean? It's like,
Sure, you can call it common
why-
sense, but to be clear, that's not a centrist stance. You're a pro-choice. You're a pro-abortion. If you're somebody that's pro-life because you think it's a life at conception, then killing something 4 weeks old and not killing it at 8 weeks makes about as much sense as killing a 4-month-old baby, but not an 8-month-old baby. So, I mean, like, that's where pro-lifers stand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just because I had a daughter and all that, and I went through the process and all the great stuff of learning what babies do when they're inside the mother. It's just, for me, I just can't ethically see like anything past 8 weeks just being okay. So that's why I'm kind of split in my opinion.
Sure.
All right, one more question, then I'll get out of here. And my last question is, do you think local cities and towns should stop destroying old buildings and put up new ones for the name of like refreshing a town? Like, so my hometown, for example, it used to be around. It's been around since like the late 1700s. They've destroyed the entire town square, and they're putting these brand new buildings up and just destroying the character of said town. What's your opinion on all of that? Since this is like a local problem that I'm sure that everyone has one sort, way or another.
I mean, personally, I think that there should be some level of understanding and respect for the past. You can't wipe it away completely. I think it'd be silly to do it. And I think retroactively applying our current moral views and then like purity testing past people and then tossing them if we don't like every single thing they stood for, I would say that's a mistake. However, like, when it comes to like public squares and when it comes to public property in cities, like, your tax money goes to support those particular things. And if you feel like your public infrastructure or your public symbols or banners or whatever don't represent you, then I mean, as a tax-paying citizen, I think you have a right to vote accordingly and tell your city council or, whatever, whoever's in charge of that you want it to look different. I think that's your right as a tax-paying citizen, for sure. It should represent you, right?
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, it doesn't in my town. Anyways, well, thank you for your time, and Beard Gang.
Thanks a lot, yeah.
No problem, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Before I pass it back to Dooby, I just want you guys to remember that we are prioritizing VC questions. So if you posted a question in the text chat and you're able to get up on the stage right now, I recommend that you go ahead and raise your hand so you can get in that queue. Okay, back over to Dooby.
Okay, first up is Solace, or Al Solace. Whenever you're ready.
Sorry, hi. Destiny, how's it going?
Hi, what's up?
Going fine. I'm very homeless right now, and I just want you to know I appreciate you, and I'm vegan. It's not the nature of the question, though. What is your position on gun rights?
In the United States, I mean, I enjoy our Second Amendment. I think we should probably have the right to own firearms, and I generally support that right.
Would you fuck? Ask yourself.
Do I what?
Would you fuck? Ask
What?
yourself.
No, we don't jive on that romantic or sexual level, unfortunately. I would fuck Avi, though.
Abby, nah. Just ask yourself.
Okay.
That's
Well,
all.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Next up, we've got Heaven's Cat. Heaven's Cat, whenever you are ready.
Hello. What's up? Wait, is my mic ass?
Nope, it sounds beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so just before I say it, I'm just going to clarify. This political opinion is a bit unhinged, but I want to see what you have to think about it. So I'm going to also try to speedrun it, so you guys don't have to wait long. So I was talking to my a person about Israel Palestine, and he was basically making the argument on why we shouldn't just invade the West Bank. By the way, I'm Israeli, and he was saying like, well, look, they've been attacking us for a fuck ton of time. Any other country would have just invaded them and like butt fuck them. Why don't we just do that? Now, obviously, there's the problem of like, where do you put the Palestinians afterwards? Do you put them as citizenship? Whatever. But like, let's say if we could like immigrate them or whatever, what, do you think that like Israel has the moral right to basically invade the West Bank and maybe either forcefully put a government or forcefully kick them out? Because every time we use these moral semantics, they basically just say, oh, well, no, Israel doesn't have this right. And they usually go back to 1948. And that's, you see this with Hamas. When they invaded, they went back to 1948. They basically, there's a bit of morality. Like, oh, well, it was before October 7th. And then, you go back the line until 1948. You see this with terrorist attacks. You see this with the intifadas. So it usually all goes back to 1948. So what do you think?
I don't think the international community would bear it. I don't think Israel's own population would bear it. I don't think the surrounding countries would bear it. I don't think the Palestinians would bear it. No, I don't think you can do a full-on invasion and expulsion of the West Bank right now. Maybe in 47 you could have argued for that, but at this point I think the time has passed.
Maybe not an expulsion, but like maybe like a forceful government, because like so far you have the PA that no one likes. You have Hamas that obviously Israel's not going to let happen, and the Palestinians don't really have a leader right now.
I mean,
and
a forceful government. I mean,
think,
you're essentially in the area then that you are now. Like, that's basically what's going on now, right? Like, that's not going to help.
I feel like what's going on now is Israel just saying, we'll leave them be. We're not going to give them a country. Not really. We're just going to let them kind of like chill here in this limbo zone,
Sure, but I mean, like, and as opposed to installing a dictatorship, I mean, that's not gonna.
Well, maybe not. Maybe like what France. Well, not France. Sorry. Like what happened after World War II, Germany, Nazi Germany, where basically they at first they did elections, but they picked the candidates, and then after a while they let them do their own elections.
Are you going to let the West Bank? Are you going to let the West Bank do their own elections and give the West Bank territory like Germany had a state?
If Israel can initially pick the candidates and then after a few years they can do their own, then yeah.
What's the state going to look like? What are the borders?
It could be current borders, and then maybe they could do like what they did with Gaza. Again, this is a very extremist position, but still, like, it would technically solve it. I mean, a lot of people.
I don't think it would solve. You say it's
but
extremist, but I mean, like, you're just like reinventing the same problem, right? Like, what do the borders look like? Are you going to start crushing? Or are you going to try to incorporate every single settlement into the Israeli borders? Are you going to create a non-contiguous country that is like, just looks insane? How are you going to split up holy sites? Are you going to stop like regulating their borders, like the in and out of Gaza and the West Bank? Like, you still have all the same problems you did before, no?
I mean, even then, I feel like it would be better than what we have now. I mean, if you think about it, there is a place where Palestinians and Israelis live together, and that is Israel. The Arab Israelis who used to be Palestinians, they live alongside Israel well. And I remember you said this on stream, where Israelis told you that they used to live alongside the Gazan people, and they were like happy.
Yeah, but careful. Palestinians in Israel have the right to vote. That's fundamentally different. They're equal citizens. The ones on the West Bank aren't.
But that's what I'm saying. If you give them the right to vote, maybe not for Israel, but for their own country, with candidates that Israel picks, like after World War II.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand what you're saying. You're assuming all the hard parts about what does their own country look like? What are the borders? What are the rights to Al-Aqsa?
The West Bank borders.
What are the West Bank borders? What does that mean?
well, okay. Like if you Google the West Bank, there's borders. Yeah, like if you combine area A, B, and C together, that's technically the West Bank, right?
And you would give that to Palestine?
Not fully, like not full control, but like what they did after Nazi Germany in World War II.
Hold on, wait a second. When you say you're Israeli, do you mean you're Israeli or do you mean you're Jewish?
I mean, I'm Israeli. I actually met you in the meet and greet for like 2 seconds, then I had to leave.
Okay. You're an Israeli. You live in Israel, okay? You said that we can Google the borders, okay? I invite you to do that. If you Google the borders, you understand that giving the West Bank back to Palestine would be literally fucking impossible. You're talking about moving out how many, 500,000 people out of the West Bank? Because the West Bank, if you want to say, you can Google it, the West Bank as Googled has some 500,000 Israeli settlers that live there. There's no way that Israel's ever giving that back to the Palestinians or giving that to the Palestinians and evacuating or just sacrificing all of those settlers to a new Palestinian state. That's never happening, right?
But wouldn't they have to do that anyway in your solution, where you said you never gave direct borders, but you said it would look something like a two-state solution?
No, because in all the conversations about a two-state solution, the borders are usually negotiated. That's why I keep asking, what would the borders be? And usually, there's been prior to this, there's been an understanding that whatever the new borders would be, they'd probably incorporate big settlement blocks into the state of Israel proper, and then that's what people talk about when they say land swaps, because you'd be taking some percentage of the West Bank, you would trade back other land to the Palestinians in order to make that land swap whole.
But if that was the case, wouldn't the borders be super messy with like patches? I don't think that would be realistic.
Welcome to the settler problem. That's why everybody hates the settlers, because the border has become incredibly patchy and it's hard to find it. When people talk about a contiguous Palestinian state, they don't just mean like having the West Bank and Gaza be one state together. They mean that even what the West Bank itself looks like, even if you take all of area A and B, this is like a patchy, splotchy clusterfuck of issues. And as you get like settlements that reach further and further into the West Bank, it's harder and harder to create a contiguous state there for Palestinians. That's like a lot of the issue, right?
True, but like when Israel would have to do something by force, like what they're doing now isn't going to work, and letting Palestinians choose themselves is what Israel's saying is a security risk, right? You could get a Hamas V2 or a Gaza V2 in the West Bank. They're going to have to do something by force. And if you think about it, every other country would have done something by force by now, right?
I don't like doing every other country and comparing is hard. For the entirety of this conflict, because it's such a unique conflict. I think everything for Israel-Palestine is pretty unique. I don't think it easily or cleanly maps onto any other conflict. So,
well, I think a lot of the arguments that pro-Palestinians have goes back to 1948, right? Like you still see this to this day with October 7th, where a lot of the pro-Palestinians will go back in time. Oh, it didn't happen before that. It happened before that, and it'll basically just go back to 1948.
Yeah.
Then basically, if you think about it, what they're doing is they're justifying everything the Palestinians are doing, no matter what, whether that's raping Israeli civilians, whether that's hostages, whatever, because of 1948. And I don't think that's viable. I don't even think that's morally right. You can't.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's bad. Yeah,
well,
I agree. That is bad. But like the solution to that is probably going to have to be some kind of bilateral agreement between Israel and Palestine to figure out like what the future two states should look like. I don't know if Israel can unilaterally solve the problem unless they want to literally just pull all of their settlers out of the West Bank, like Sharon did with the Gaza Strip, and say fuck it, and then just like leave. But I don't think Israel has the political will to do that right now.
What do you think? Okay, because a lot of pro-Israelis say that Israel needs settlers in the West Bank due to security reasons. Do you think it's morally righteous to say pull out the settlers, but like put like IDF soldiers there instead, and then force a government? Do you think that's more morally right or wrong?
No, I think you can probably have some security arrangement around areas, especially like to the east of Tel Aviv would probably make sense, or maybe like certain hills or whatever that are part of the West Bank near the Green Line. I mean, like you can probably make some arguments for that, but all of the settlements right now aren't security. Like a lot of them are just there because it's people can live there, cheap land, historic rights, whatever other bullshit. Like I don't know if the majority of the settlements right now that exist in the West Bank are for security purposes.
Yeah, but that's like the argument, you know.
I understand, but I don't agree with that. I don't think most of that. Generally, I don't think that's true. There are some settlements that could probably be justified on a security basis, and there are parts of the Green Line that maybe could be enforced on a security basis. But then you'd have to trade back land to the Palestinians to make it equal to the land they're losing that you're going to annex. But yeah.
But okay, but like, as an Israeli, and again, I admit this is unhinged, right? But I'm trying to speak for the Israelis that I've talked to who are pretty far right. So I'm trying to speak for them because I mainly agree with you. So I'm trying to get the people who don't agree with you to come in here, and I'm not going to bring them in because they're busy. They actually have a life. So as an Israel, don't you think that's like for them? I say for them, I'm one of them, but I'm not the far right ones. For them, it would be pretty shocking to say like they're terrorist attacking us a lot, right? There's a lot of terrorist attacks to the point that at this point it's like a skip it in the news, right? Like a few minutes. You know, even a terrorist attack is pretty common here, right? They in Gaza they send rockets. They're cheering on October 7th. They fucking hate us, but we still have to negotiate with them. Don't you think? Like, can't you see how people in Israel will just see that as ridiculous?
It is ridiculous, and it's a ridiculous position. But it's also ridiculous that that the territory of Gaza and the West Bank have been occupied for like some 55, 60 years. I mean, like the whole situation is ridiculous all around, right?
But that wouldn't happen if the Palestinians weren't always aggressive towards Israel, including in 1948, which they would have had their own country if they would have accepted the UN plan.
Sure, right? They didn't accept that, but I mean, we can't keep going back to 1948. So now we have to figure out how to solve the issue now, right?
But even after 1948, they still are very aggressive towards Israel, including October 7th, including all the terrorist attacks, including the PA having a slave for pay policy. Like true that Israel does do scummy things towards the Palestinians, but the Palestinians never stop being aggressive.
Sure. Then you have to figure out a solution to the problem. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to talk about what's fair.
Fair doesn't, I don't think, compute here when we talk about like international conflict. Like sometimes there are things that are just not going to be adequately satisfied on both sides. Like that's just the nature of different peoples coming to agreements with each other. Like fair on the hard line of Israelis and Palestinians would be the right to the entire land of Israel, which would include, from river to sea, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. There are people on both sides that feel like that's the only fair thing. And both sides of those people would have some kind of a claim to the entirety of the land. But I mean, that's not really, I think justice is a better word than fair. You have to figure out a way to resolve the situation that leaves everybody reasonably well off, that satisfies both sides' claims as much as possible. But nothing is going to be fair.
Okay, I'm going to say this one last thing, and then I'm going to ask you a question about the meetup, and then I'll fuck off. The last thing is true, fair isn't always like in politics, fair isn't always the answer, right? You don't always do what's fair, you do what makes sense and what will lead to peace. But if you look at Israel, a lot of the people who are in control, like Bibi, are far right, and they look at it as fair, right? The people who are voting look at it as fair. They say, well, these people have been aggressive towards us, so, and they're fucking shelling us and attacking us, and we have to negotiate with them. This isn't fair. This is why I use that word. Why the fuck should we negotiate with them? Why shouldn't we just fucking slaughter them all? And that's how you get like far right Israelis, and that's how you have like Bibi, who has like a bunch of far right people who are like keeping him in power.
I mean, like that's a position that you could take. I mean, you could try and slaughter them all, but you're probably going to lose all of the peace agreements that you've achieved with your surrounding Arab states. There's probably going to be a massive Arab-Israeli war, a real one. And then all of the people in the right in Israel that cry and whine about there being existential threats to the country and, 7 fronts that they have to fight constantly will actually find themselves in an existential fight. And I don't know if the United States or any of the international community would back them. So they would just get destroyed and obliterated. And you'd have Holocaust 2.0. You'd have Jews jumping into the sea like they always feared. And then you'd have Jewish people living abroad as diasporades again, like some do now. So, I mean, like, if you want to go that road, you could do it, but it's probably going to be Israel on their own because the United States and nobody in the Western world is going to back them through that sort of, like, campaign. But
well, slaughtering them is a bit extreme. I mean, like, maybe a forced government or whatever. But, yeah, I'll ask you this one last quick question, and then I'll fuck off. And that's, when you turned that corner in the meet and greet, I saw the shock in your face. What did you think?
Oh, I don't know. I thought there'd be like 50 to 100 people was like my max guess. And then when I saw the people down there, I assumed maybe there was like a protest or a demonstration. And then maybe my fans were like alongside it. I didn't know I had like 300 plus people to hang out with me. Yeah.
Yeah, you got swarmed. Anyway, I'll fuck off. Have a nice day, Destiny. See you later.
Thank you, Mr. Cat. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Next up, we've got Swedish Blonde. Whenever you're ready.
Awesome. I know you guys can hear me, so I'm not going to ask that retarded question. Anyways, first of all, thanks to Dooby and Joker for bringing me on. Nice to meet you, Destiny. Here's my question. Do you think that it's racist to be proud of your race? Maybe also advocate for the preservation of one's own race, assuming, of course, there's no advocacy for violence or discriminatory policy.
I mean, I'm going to say probably not. I mean, it depends on how you define racism, but I mean, meaningfully, I would say probably not a bad thing. No?
Sure. I mean, I would say that the majority of people who are proud of their race have that position because of their cultures and ancestry associated with their identity. Would you disagree with that at all?
The majority might. I don't know. Some people can be quote unquote proud of their race, not from like a racial pride point of view, but from like an exclusionary point of view. It just depends on. I don't think I would generalize that statement.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not white, but I think if we're going to advocate for diversity and inclusion, we shouldn't have like any exceptions, weird exceptions, right? Like, for example, we have a Latino and Black Pride Month. whatnot. What do you think about like maybe a white Pride Month, right?
I think that generally when we think about Pride months in the United States, I think that the general feeling is that there are certain people that historically have been underrepresented in terms of like their contributions to the recognition of their contributions. So they've contributed more than they've been recognized for. So we have certain months to celebrate or commemorate these people because we feel like historically they haven't gotten that level of celebration or commemoration. So in that regard, I don't know why we would need a white Pride month, because I feel like in general we all know, who like George Washington is, and all the famous white figures in U.S. history. That's my feeling on it.
Sure. I mean, that's a pretty logical reason, actually. Some people would say, well, what about slavery? I mean, I think we can move on from slavery. It's been a while. But do you think that, like, black-only spaces are a productive college campus policy? Or because people feel safer, quote-unquote? Or is it, I mean, to me, it's just discrimination. It's literally racial discrimination.
Sure. I don't think discrimination is always bad. For instance, having a woman's only gym versus like a man's only gym. I don't think discrimination is necessarily bad all the time. It just depends on the purpose for the discrimination. If you talk about a black only space, I mean, it depends on the reason why the space was created and what the space is supposed to facilitate. Depending on the community that you're in, if you want to create a safe space for a certain group of people to be able to complain or vent about a particular thing without having to listen to other people complaining or judging your complaints, I guess, I think that safe spaces are fine. Obviously, I would say you should probably afford the same things for every type of person. So if you've got like a black safe space and you want to make like an Irish safe space or a white safe space or some bullshit like that, I guess you can do that as well. But I don't think that safe spaces or exclusionary spaces are necessarily bad things. It would depend on the purpose and application of the space.
Based, all right. And I think that the majority of people self-segregate anyways, right? Like even babies as young as 6 months old can negatively and positively react to the differences in race. And that's according to like the NIH.
They might, but also children at very young ages that are socialized around other races will engage in that segregation far differently. People that are like children that are brought up around people that look differently than them will have warmer feelings towards those people than people that have never been introduced to them at all. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right. I mean, I think if you disagree with me at all, it's for the right reasons. I've just heard a lot of retarded arguments on here. That's a bit.
Yeah, there are a lot of retarded arguments, but I mean, I would say that more often than not, when people talk about any of the things you brought up, and they talk about like creating spaces for white people, et cetera, I don't believe that. I don't usually believe those arguments. They kind of sound like super sussy to me, especially if you're talking about like white culture. Even the term white is like a little bit strange. If somebody wanted to celebrate more specific aspects of their heritage or culture, and they want to talk about like Italian backgrounds or Irish backgrounds or something like that, I would probably believe those a little bit more. But I feel more often than not when people talk about like white backgrounds or just white spaces, usually they just want to exclude certain types of people from it, and they don't really want to celebrate any particular culture of their own, and they usually don't even understand their own culture. So I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Whoa, wait, why that presumption specifically about whites and not blacks, for example, or any other race?
Because historically, whites creating spaces and whites saying things like white power have a particular connotation, and you don't really see that same connotation historically with black people trying to create spaces or speaking about black power.
Sure, but like, I mean, I don't think that white supremacy is a big issue in America, right? Like, what do we have, like 5 Klansmen left?
I don't think that white supremacy as it stands today is a huge issue in the United States, but I think that we still feel the effects of white supremacy today in the United States, and historically there's still associations with it, and the need for like white representative spaces seems strange when white people seem to be fine in terms of representation in the United States, in economics and in government and whatever else. So the idea of like the necessity to create those spaces is a little bit suspect to me.
Well, I would say that even as a racial minority myself, it's very important to note that a lot of whites are under fire, right? Like white liberals feel genuinely attacked for even just being white. Some of them talk about not wanting to reproduce because they have some white guilt. I mean, what do you think about that? If you do acknowledge it as an issue, right?
I mean, I can acknowledge that there might be a perception there. I don't think that I don't think that perception very accurately maps onto reality. The same that when black people say that we live in a hardcore white supremacist society and everybody's a white supremacist, I don't think that maps on cleanly to reality either. So if you're white and you don't want to have a kid because you feel like you're under attack for being white, I think you are probably living too much on Twitter and need to spend a little bit more time in the real world.
Yeah, that's true. All right, thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
Yep, bye.
Great, thank you. Next up, got where is this person? Rania or Moon. You're ready, I think. I hope.
Oh, hello.
Cool.
Hi, Destiny.
Hello.
I'm here to ask you a few questions. So my first question is, what do you think about ex-Muslims? And how do you feel about the growth of ex-Muslims? 20% to 25% of Muslims leaving Islam in the United States.
I don't think about ex-Muslims much. I don't engage with that group of people much. I don't think about them much. Is there like a more specific question or?
Yeah, there is. Is the humanitarian crisis in Gaza being caused by Hamas stealing aid, or is the food insecurity in Gaza Israel's fault?
It's hard to blame a particular side on something that is like so heavily integrated on both sides. I don't know if there's like a massive food insecurity issue in Gaza. I think maybe you can argue there is one after the war, although I know the UN has recently, or like those IPC5 classifications seem to have gotten walked back quite a bit. The projections, I think, are largely disregarded now because of the way that they were done I think like in February and March. But I mean, like, as far as issues with food going in, I think that Israel does enough to get food into there. I think that there's problems with distribution inside. I think a lot of that is Hamas's fault. But if Hamas fails in distributing that food or getting the food to the people, I still think Israel has an obligation there to try their best to make sure it's getting out to people. But I think the problem is overblown a lot based on how people talk about it. I don't think there's like these mass starvation events happening that people keep saying are about to happen in the Gaza Strip.
Okay. Is the humanitarian aid immoral? Some people think it's insane.
I'm sorry, wait, I missed the part you said.
Palestinian.
Is the humanitarian aid in what? I missed the part of that.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Your mic cuts out a little bit sometimes. Can you repeat that question?
I think you said immoral, right? Yes, if the humanitarian aid was immoral. Yeah.
Some Israelis think it's insane to aid the enemy.
To aid your enemy? I mean, those are the rules of war. You have to take care of the civilian population, even of the enemy. Like, that's part of your obligation, is to make sure humanitarian aid is being delivered, and that you're not causing widespread damage to the civilian population. So you have that obligation. Hamas is supposed to have an obligation under, humanitarian law as well, but Hamas obviously fails to fulfill that obligation in every way. I mean, Israel's doing their best, I would say, or they seem to be like moving in that direction towards doing their best or trying to provide aid to the enemy population. But I mean, that you can say it's insane, but that's literally what you have to do. It's the rules of war. Yeah.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, just a real quick aside. So people, Destiny, who were simping over her, she's a minor. So you're all officially pedophiles. Congratulations. Next up is Daffodils. Whenever you're ready.
Hi. I'm gonna ask you 3 questions and upfront, and you can choose which ones to answer. Okay?
Oh boy.
So the first one is that I saw you had a discussion with Dr. Einat Wilf. I was wondering what was your impression from that discussion. Second question and third question are about stuff that you mentioned on stream. So you mentioned that a part of the solution to the conflict and the peace process is that Israel should allow the Palestinian people to regain their honor. So what did you mean by that, and what could this be in practice? Third question is that you mentioned also that you think that the Israeli Palestinians could be the key to the peace between Israel and Palestine. Could you elaborate on that, and do you have more concrete thoughts on that at this point?
Sure. I mean, I think I can blow through all 3 of these pretty quickly. So for Einat, am I pronouncing the name correctly? Einat Wilf?
Einat.
She seemed okay, but like I think the nature of the conversation had us not drilling deeply into the answers that we were both giving. So I think on like a macro level, it looked like we kind of agreed on most things. Just from what I've heard about her and the way that she was speaking, I have a feeling that if we dig really far in, it seemed like she was probably a lot more on like the pro-Zionist side than I am, I'm guessing. But we didn't really like dig really deeply into any of the questions or answers. In terms of allowing Palestinians to regain honor, I think that there's like this pervasive feeling amongst Palestinians in Israel, in the West Bank, and in Gaza that they're kind of living under the thumb of an oppressive force that has no respect for them and doesn't allow them any dignity. And I think that alleviating that feeling might be more important on like a macro level than like the finer points of any detail that's worked out. In terms of what that looks like, I mean, hugely different standards of living between like Palestinians in the West Bank versus settlers in the West Bank probably contributes towards that feeling of living without honor or dignity. All of the random checkpoints that are set up in the West Bank, not the ones going into Israel, but just ones going from like village to village, especially the 700 plus that were added after October 7th, probably feel pretty shitty. When you used to drive, from one place to another, and now there's a random checkpoint there that might be closed, so now you've got to take a whole different road. In terms of the last one, for Israeli Palestinians are the key to peace, I think that integration between Jewish people and Arab people, or Jewish people and Muslims, or whatever you want to say, I think that integration is like historically unprecedented and is unbelievably phenomenal. I think that should be expanded upon more. And I think things that lead to greater integration between the Jewish populations and the Palestinian populations, I think should increase instead of decrease, as they seem to have done after October 7th. So whether that means like unfreezing work permits from the West Bank, allowing more people in the West Bank to work in Israel, people continue to buy things and to integrate more economically with the Arab populations or the Palestinian populations in Israel, and people. And I think probably, this is only anecdotally, but I've heard that like the Israeli police forces inside of Israel doesn't do enough to fight crime in Palestinian areas in Israel as well, that like crime can be pervasive there and Israelis don't really care about it unless it starts to impact Jewish areas. I think those are probably things that can be done to alleviate that difference between Palestinians and Israelis inside the country.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, was she done? Did I miss that?
She is
I'm
done.
sorry. Okay, well, next up we've got Stoke Flame. Stoke, whenever you're ready.
Hello?
Hello.
Dooby, my turn was like 35 minutes ago.
Hey, quit bitching.
Why
Answer questions,
why
please.
did you push all these people in front of me?
Because I like them more than you.
All right. Destiny. Hi.
Hi.
All right, I have a question here. I wrote it down. I believe you recently said that Israel are justified to deny cookies from Gaza because they can make rocket fuel out of the sugar in these cookies. So
I don't know if I said they were justified. I think the argument in the past had to do with whether or not Israel was
I
enacting.
did not finish my question. Please. So, like,
okay, I'm going to correct the premise.
Fine. How do you extract sugar from cookies, and like, what is the exact process of that?
I'm pretty sure you can just soak them in water and you can get like the sugar out through like boiling stuff away. No.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's not like an easy process, is that?
It's not an easy process to separate sugar from things.
Yeah. Do you believe that? Do you believe like people like extract sugar from cookies in a simple process as that? I don't believe so.
Okay, that's not my understanding, but hey, I'm not a chemistry major. So, yeah.
You actually went on like, what is it, like on a huge national TV, and you said that. You said, oh, like they are denying cookies because like they can extract sugar. And
So,
like,
that wasn't the.
And I'm sure, if I may, and I'm sure that you don't know how to extract sugar from cookies. And like, that's why like even Hutch, when he was like reacting to your video, like he was like saying, what the fuck? I'm actually like supporting Destiny in all of his like Zionism bullshit, but like what the fuck, extracting sugar from cookies to make like rocket fuel? Come on. Now we don't
So
know
the initial disagreement was over why Israel would be denying certain things to the Gaza Strip, and the example
Cookies.
given.
Destiny cookies, as simple as cookies.
Let me know when I can finish my point without you.
All right, I'll
screeching.
mute myself. I'll mute myself.
You don't have to mute yourself. You just not scream. So the initial argument that was brought up was that the Gaza Strip had certain supplies that were cut off to it just because of Israel's desire to collectively punish Gazan citizens. And in trying to look, I briefly looked for this cookie ban or whatever, and the things that I generally was coming up on the internet was that people can extract sugar from things in order to create simple rocket fuels. There was a video of a guy in Syria talking about how he would mix sugar and I think it's potassium nitrate, certain fertilizers, and that you can make very crude.
Yep.
Please let me finish, please. Thank you.
But hold on, you jumped over. Okay,
that you can make very crude rocket fuel from mixing sugar and fertilizer. And so my guess would have been is that if you were trying to extract anything from sugar heavy products like cookies or whatever, that would be the reason why. Nobody presented any evidence that they were banning products from the country just because they were trying to collectively punish. I didn't see anything about that. I looked at it. I couldn't find any of that. After the Breaking Point's appearance, Lonerbox did a deep dive into this, and I looked at stuff afterwards, both at what he did and independently, and it looked like there wasn't ever actually a particular sugar cookie ban, so that entire topic was apparently a moot point. But the initial disagreement had to do with whether or not products were being banned to collectively punish the Gazans, not whether or not a thing was physically possible. Anybody educated in the field would tell you that it's easy to extract sugar from sugar products and that it's easy to make rocket fuel from sugar and potassium nitrate. Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But like, hey, if now Lonerbox searched this topic and he did not find anything about like banning things, and like your first response is like, well, cookies, it's like because there is sugar. So like you are like being completely dishonest right now. So like you just justified something, a process that you actually don't know.
Okay.
You said that on like, what is it? It was like Fox
Can
News?
you
or
summarize,
like,
can you give me a summary of where the major disagreement was between people saying that there was a cookie ban and me saying there and me challenging that idea? Can you tell me what the major disagreement was?
No, the major disagreement, if someone says, why are like the Zionists are like denying cookies? And you said, because sugar, you actually like, you pointed with your hand. And like everyone like is calling out on it. Just like that.
So you're saying a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to ask the question one more time. I'm going to say, do you know where the substantive disagreement was between me and the other people that were arguing about the cookie ban? What was the major point that we were arguing against?
It's about they are like banning some like food supplies, some like other things that the people in Gaza would use. And one of them, the person asked you, what about cookies? You said sugar.
I don't know why you keep saying that.
Sugar.
All right, I'll ask one more.
Because I'm answering. Because I'm directly answering your question. All right, I'm sorry. I'm answering his directly.
My question is, what was the substantive disagreement? What were we arguing about in that? What was the point that we were arguing?
Question. No, I don't know the exact details, but I know the question.
I'm not asking for the exact details.
And I know the answer.
I'm asking.
But why? But I'm here to asking you. Hey, is this a Stoic Flame AMA or like Destiny AMA?
Well, if you don't even understand what the disagreement was, and I can't really.
No, it's a simple question. Destiny, it was a simple question. Hey, he asked you, what about cookies? You said sugar. Okay, fine. You don't know the process of extracting. No one extracts like sugar from cookies. Fine. You don't know about that process. You were just like a Zionist shell. Fine. Can I move to the second question?
Okay, you don't understand fundamentally what you were talking about. You don't have the basic understanding of chemistry to know that you can extract sugar from cookies. It's pretty easy. And there are people that show you online. There was a Syrian rocket maker that literally said that he worked in Palestine that was interviewed on CNN. Sugar. Yes, you can extract sugar from cookies. I promise you can, okay? You can go Google it later, okay?
Hold on. There's the wild statement that everyone like, hey, is that you can make fuel, rocket fuel from sugar. Fine. You mix sugar and you can make fuel out of it. Fine. But like extracting sugar from cookies? No, that's bullshit. All right. Now,
let me just be clear. Wait. Let me just be clear. Can I understand? Wait, I just want it to be clear. No, I just want to just so I understand. So you're saying, just for you to say this, it is impossible to extract sugar from cookies. You can't do that.
They don't do that. They don't do that.
No, I didn't ask you. Wait. I didn't ask if they did. I'm asking you, is it impossible to extract sugar from cookies?
It would be like a very what is it?
Very energy intensive process.
No, unrewarding process that they don't do it. I ask you about just like about your answer. It's like you were like prepared to give any answer.
No, I wasn't prepared to give any answer. This is what I found when I Googled.
All right, because now if you don't know the process, then that's fine. Can I move to my second question, please? This is like a Stoic Flame AMA suddenly.
You don't know the process at all either, though. I don't look up the.
Yes,
I can make the argument that a country can shoot a missile at another country without telling you exactly how missiles work. I don't know exactly how a missile works.
Sure.
I can say somebody used GPS without knowing exactly how GPS satellites triangulate position of the planet.
Fine. They also could have like extracted uranium from the cookies. Fine. Can I
don't think cookies contain uranium, and I don't think there's any evidence of people doing that.
Really?
But yeah, go ahead.
All right. So now I can ask you about like where like Dave Smith like actually hurt you. He actually hurt you, and I can we can test that. Is that because he called you out when you said no one said 100% the vaccine's gonna protect you from the infections, right?
I don't even know what the question is there.
The question is that you made a wrong statement on Piers Morgan, and you said no one with a position of authority said that the vaccine will 100% protect you.
Yes, that is
And
my
Dave
understanding.
Smith and the other
yes.
people jumped on you and embarrassed you, and that's why you are butthurt.
I don't think I'm
right,
butthurt,
I've
but I've seen these claims made in the past, and when people link to these claims and I go and I read the full quote, it doesn't seem like there was strong evidence that anybody of note was saying that things were 100% going to affect
100%. I'll show you that. Do you want to see clips of Fauci says it will stop the infection, and he'll do a fist with his hand. He do this it will stop the infection. Then Fauci says if you have the vaccine, you won't get COVID. If you have the vaccine, you will stop the chain. All right. All of these statements with full confidence actually means 100%. Actually is 100%. So you were actually very wrong, and that was a position of authority.
So the issue is that what you don't seem to understand is, depending on the transmissibility of a virus, that last statement that you just made, that if you get a vaccine, you will stop the chain of infections, that can be true without 100%. Without 100% stopping the transmission of a virus. You just have to bring the R0 down to where it doesn't spread through the public anymore. You don't have to have a 100% blocking vaccine in order to do that. So the last statement doesn't contradict anything that I've said, and it doesn't affirm that he was saying it's 100% effective. If you want, right now, you can show me or link somewhere your strongest clip if you feel like this being linked, and I can evaluate it and tell you I feel like it's honest or not.
Sure, you're gonna watch it. It's gonna be
no. Hold on, wait. If you give me it has to be the full script or the transcript. I'm not gonna watch a 10-second clip. Because the way that all of these claims work is it's usually it'll be one sentence or two sentences. So what I have to do is I've got to go back and find the original. And then when I see the original, when they say if people get vaccinated, it'll stop transmission. But then when I read the sentence before, it's saying vaccines work on herd immunity. If a certain amount of people get vaccinated, then we can expect that this virus will fall off. And then the final sentence will be that's why people need to get vaccinated to stop the transmission. But people will clip that last sentence and make it sound like they were saying the vaccines were 100% effective, which nobody at the time thought. That's why there were jokes about did you get the Moderna vaccine? Did you get the J&J? Did you get the Pfizer? It's because everybody knew there were different effective levels of the vaccination. That's where those jokes came from.
Fauci said, word by word, when people are vaccinated, they can feel safe. They won't get infected. Isn't this analogous to 100% protection?
I don't know. Can you show me where it came from?
Okay.
To link to the yeah.
All right.
Okay, so while he's doing that, just really quickly. So we are over the 2-hour mark. So I want to be respectful of your time.
That's fine. I can leave when I'm ready. Don't worry.
I'll dip. I'll send if Destiny add me. I'll send him all the clips of Fauci.
No. Just your one. Hold on, wait. Just your one strongest. Just a one strongest clip. Link it in the AMA discussion chat or whatever. Just the one best clip you think you have of it.
Fine. It's very easy to access it. I'll dip for now, and yeah, sure.
Wait. Wait. Don't dip. Let's just say it. We'll just watch it. We'll read it right now.
Okay. You will wait for me to pull it up?
Yeah, just pull it up. We'll look at it right now.
All right.
But whatever that particular Fauci quote that you just referenced, or you think Fauci's strongest statement on it, yeah.
Dooby, I'll send it to you. It's from a tweet. It's a bunch of people. So many people.
No, just one. Hold on. Do you understand that when you do this, it makes me think you're full of shit, right? I'm asking you for a single, because when I ask you for a single strong statement, technically I'm giving you an even easier win condition. But when you, wait, let me finish. Please let me finish. Don't interrupt me, okay? When you constantly allude to, here's 20, here's 30, here's 50. I'm not asking for 20, 30, 50. I just want one. When you don't have the ability to produce even a single one, but you're hoping that you can use this deluge, this wave of statements, it makes me feel like you're. So I'm just asking for one, just one singular one.
All right, I just the clip to Dooby. Dooby, okay, it's on this tweet video. It's 2 minutes 30 seconds. He will respond because so you can share it with him. All right. Send it to him. I can't send it to him.
Okay, I'll DM.
All right, wait. All right. So he will respond with, "Hey, it's out of context." All right. Then we're gonna I'm gonna have to look for like the full voucher statement, and we will see that it's not out of.
Wait a second.
Can you show him the clip?
Wait. Just real quick, just so that I can understand what you're saying. So you're telling me you don't know where this statement came from. You just admitted yourself that you haven't actually seen the content.
No, it's an interview of Fauci. It's in front of TV. Can you show him the clip?
Okay, I've opened it on stream. At what point? So this is me and Dave and the other
2
two.
minutes. That's why you are heard of like Dave Smith. That's why like you are like siding with even Andrew Wilson. Like when he's like debated Dave Smith.
Wait. Can you name a single substantive critique I gave Dave Smith against Andrew Wilson that wasn't fair?
No, but like the way that
No,
wait, happy.
Wait.
No,
wait. Can you hold on just real quick because you said that I was siding against Dave Smith to be spiteful. That was the accusation. So can you give me a
the one about
single
definition? The one about definitions. The one about definitions. Oh, appealing to definitions is actually like you lost the debate. No, when you appeal to definitions, no, that's like a social contract in languages that you actually need.
You think that if you're having
hold on, let me respond to your question because this is Stoic Flame AMA. Hold on. You actually went to say, guys, let me look the definition of rights. You actually Googled the definition of rights, and we saw the definition of rights from Oxford, and it actually doesn't nullify the argument. It doesn't limit the argument. So if you appeal to definitions, this is very helpful. This is like how we actually have languages, all right?
No.
That's
when
why
you're having
DMs. I even have DMs with Andrew Wilson to call him both you and Destiny fucked up when you like say, hey, appealing to dictionaries is like bad. All right, so that's one.
When
can
you're
we
having
go
an
back now to the
academic,
clip?
we can. When you're having first of all, and also, so it seems like you don't have a specific clip of Fauci. It's going to be a collection of like statements that he's made. That's what it
is
seems
a
like.
single clip. A single clip. 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
When I say single clip, I mean like a single like speech, a full thing, not like 20 different people cut together. But that's fine. Can you tell me?
Let DG research it. Let DG
No,
research
stop.
it. Is this
I
out of
already
context
did
or
on
not?
stream.
Okay?
I already did on stream, and all of them were bullshit. That's why I was asking you for your strongest example. That's why I was asking you, right? Also, when you're having an academic debate, you don't pull out a dictionary for a definition. Oftentimes, it's like the words themselves are what are being debated. If somebody's asking you, like, where do your rights come from? And you say, well, Merriam-Webster says a right is this, that you're not really able to have a conversation.
You pulled it out. And actually, the division of rights that you pulled it out from Oxford doesn't limit the conversation. You actually were embarrassed when, like, you were reacting to Andrew Wilson. Like I would say, like he was beating Dave Smith, like
because if somebody
that debate was like out of. Anyway,
if somebody is having,
why are you asking me all of these?
I'm not asking you anything. You're the one that brought it up, so I'm going to address it. Right? If you're having a conversation and you're referring to a concept, and somebody asks you to define the concept, and then you have to run to the definition to define the concept, then the question rightfully in the person's mind is, what were you referring to if you needed to define the concept after invoking it? That's why running to the debate or running to the dictionary in that particular debate doesn't really make any sense. It'd be like saying, my friend, my friend believes this and that, and my friend is big on this and that. And you're like, wait a second, really? Where? And you're like, well, hold on, let me look up and see who my friend is first. It's like, wait, what? How are you referring to what your friend said or what your friend feels?
Dictionaries are not friends.
No. You're not understanding what I'm saying. Hold on. No, wait. Do you understand that if you invoke a concept and then somebody asks you to define that concept, that they're not asking you how the dictionary defines it, they're asking you how you define it because you're the one that invoked it in a debate.
In your English, in your language, all right? All right, in your language.
No.
To a social contract. To appeal to why the f are we using language? All right.
Do you understand? Wait. Do you understand that?
I have been waiting. Wait.
Okay. Jesus.
Even like, all right. Listen. You said like in an academic debate. What if like there was like an academic debate about like people discussing medicine? All right, they will not appeal to the medicine dictionary.
It depends on what they say.
Really?
Do you think you're making a point by squealing like a pig?
That's academic debate. All right, no, you make like a point. But wait. Like even Queeman is like told you like, shut the fuck up. Like don't say wait. Whatever.
If somebody were to tell you a particular thing in a debate, if they invoke a topic and then you ask them, well, hold on, how do you define that topic? Or what do you mean by that topic? And somebody then goes to the dictionary, it sounds like you invoked a topic that you don't understand. Do you understand what I just said? Does that make sense to you? Or are you like in super debate brain mode right now and you don't understand how?
No, I'm done. Anything
You
else?
don't understand that. Okay. You don't get that. Okay.
Anything? I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
Anything else?
I hope that one day you can find a single clip of Fauci proving what you wanted to prove.
That's the clip. That's the clip. Oh, sure.
This isn't a clip.
Thank
This
you.
is
Thank
20
you,
different
everyone.
statements tied together. But thanks for proving my
it's
point
like
in
so
literally
many
both of
clips.
these
I'm
things. Thank you
sorry, I
for
shot
proving.
so many clips.
Thank you for proving every single thing I said in
Anything
this
else?
conversation.
Anything else? This is a stoic flame. AMA.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
it's
right.
been great. Thank you so much.
All right,
And
thank you.
don't
All right,
don't
see
appeal
you.
to
Bye.
dictionary
Love
definitions
you.
after you've already evoked the
Thank you,
topic.
sir.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Next up is going to be this person.
Okay, hold on, wait. As this person's getting their mic set up, okay, somebody sent me the transcript of that one Fauci quote. So the
No, I
quote
think-
was,
I think it's,
what?
Yeah, I think it's on my end.
Yeah, the quote was, the line that was given
Oh,
was,
sorry. Yeah, I think my internet connection is fucked up right now.
okay, the quote given, the line was, is they can feel safe that they are not going to get infected. That was the quote given by Fauci. The paragraph that this comes from is, so low likelihood of transmission, low likelihood of getting infected. When you do get infected, the chances are you're going to be without symptoms. And because of that, that was the accumulating scientific data that prompted the CDC to make that recommendation that when people are vaccinated, they can feel safe that they're not going to get infected, whether they're outdoors or indoors. That's the bottom line of that, to get people to appreciate you get vaccinated and you're really quite safe from getting infected. None of this paragraph implies, I won't even say implies 100% effectiveness. It literally explicitly says it is not 100% effective. It says low likelihood of transmission and low likelihood of getting infected. And then when you do get infected, there's a low likelihood of having severe symptoms. And then at the bottom, it says you're quite safe from getting infected. Not 100% safe, not completely and totally safe. That is a conservative delusion that has been invented after the fact. Nobody believed this in the past.
Okay. Next up is Anarchy. Anarchy, whenever you're ready.
Hey, I sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, but I just wanted to say thank you for being in the hot seat. I know it's pretty hard, but I appreciate your time.
It's always a blast.
Yeah, that was earlier in the conversation, like really early on, I heard you talking about capitalism and how, at least from what I was understanding, you were saying that it is the most efficient system we know, and therefore we should continue to use it. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, it seems to be
Is
the
that
best
valid?
way to organize an economy right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I wanted to ask was, I guess before capitalism, there was feudalism. Before feudalism, there was slavery. Before slavery, we were gatherers. At each point in history, it was always thought that their system was the most efficient and the best we knew due to its achievements. Yet a new and better system than the prior was always created. Why do you say that capitalism is the system we should have, despite the historical trend of new systems being introduced into society?
Because right now it seems to be the case. I mean, all of those systems were probably the best systems that existed at those particular point in times. They were improving as time went on, and right now this is where we're at. I'm not saying that capitalism will always be the best system or is the final stage of like economic development. I'm sure we probably will move on to something from this, maybe, but right now I don't know like what the alternatives are. I don't know what we should be doing instead.
Do you think we should be exploring new systems?
Yeah, always. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So
most people
basically
that
you're saying-
advocate against capitalism aren't trying to discover or invent new systems. They seem to want to use systems based on some like moral preconceptions they have with very poor or negative understanding of economics. Mainly people that push for communism or any type of variation of that.
Okay. Can we agree that resources around this planet are limited?
I think definitionally, yeah.
Yeah. And don't you think that it is more efficient if we were to, in our current system, it's very individualistic, where we encourage individuals, either individual people or entities, to take as much resources as they can. and it's to the point where even though we have enough resources to give people food and water and shelter, due to individuals allocating so many resources, it leads to hiccups in the economy. It leads to people not receiving resources that they should, even though it's there. Don't you think it would be more efficient to distribute those resources more appropriately?
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like we have difficulties doing that, and I don't know what other form of organization would deal with that. It seems like capitalist, like liberal countries historically have had the best track records when it comes to things like famine. Oftentimes people that are anti-capitalist and want to push in a different direction, and then they point to this exact problem, are saying that we should copy models that led to some of the largest famines in the world, like the Great Leap Forward or like the Holodomor.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if those systems would be any better at distributing food than liberal democracies would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think definitely there's well, I mean, if you look at the history of feudalism, going from feudalism to capitalism, there was a lot of attempts at capitalism. It didn't just like arrive, you know. There were experiments, and a vast majority of them failed, and there was a lot of different ones. Eventually, it came hold, and you know, it is what we see today. I'm not going to disagree that there has been failures of, I guess you can say, Marxian, communism and socialism, things like that. Um, but I would say, in terms of the damage, if we were to compare the damage of what capitalistic world has brought versus what communistic worlds, or I guess socialistic worlds, has brought, it's far less. I mean, if we were to go by death count alone, I mean, indigenous people, wars in the name of capital. I mean, the amount of, if you're
What
going to
wars
talk
have
about,
happened in the name of capital?
I mean, most wars are for resources. Don't you agree?
Resources are, first of all, definitionally are not capital. If you're a Marxist, resources are natural resources. Capital implies some improved upon with human labor. But just because a war is over a resource doesn't necessarily mean it's over capitalism. Like even the most communist utopian society in the world still needs access to resources, right?
Yeah, but in terms of profit, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Like,
You
for
think World War
example,
II is
oil
for profit?
I mean, maybe not all of them, but I'm sure we can agree that a lot of wars were done because of profit. There's been wars because of profit. Don't you think so?
No, I disagree. At least not for the United States. I don't think so. I think up through 91, they were mainly done on ideological differentiations between us and the Soviet Union, fighting for world hegemonic control. I mean, I'm sure you could probably make arguments that during the imperialist, like expansionary years of like Europe, those are like taking over territories in like in Africa. That was probably largely profit resource driven.
What about oil? I mean, oil was a big part of our wars.
Maybe, but I mean, if you want to say oil is a big part of our wars, I feel like that would hurt your side a lot because we're not like conquering like the Middle East. Nobody's conquered them to take all of their oil fields. Like I feel like those have been largely relinquished back to those countries. Yeah, I mean, like after the Iraq War, we didn't like seize all of Iraq's oil fields. We didn't go to Syria and take all of their oil fields. Saudi Arabia, OPEC, like these countries are all pretty much in control of their distribution of oil.
Yeah, but the United States entered into the country. I mean, I don't think it's controversial for anyone to say that the oil that one of the main motives we went to war was for the oil, and innocent civilians were killed. I mean, that's just one war.
Sure. I think that wars happen for a variety of reasons. I don't think it's just capitalism. I mean, you can argue that they happen because of like resources and access to resources. That's probably true.
Yeah.
But like everybody needs resources. It doesn't matter what kind of society you have.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude, whenever you're ready, mister.
All right. Let's see if I can get my cam on without too much trouble here. I forgot to turn on virtual webcam, so I just am playing around with some settings. Here we go. We got it. Okay. Hey, hi everyone. So I have switched up my topic a lot coming up with this, just waiting. But you know who I really want to talk about is Nick Rekieta. I want to talk about like some tertiary open relationship stuff that has been going on with like Steel Toe and Nick Rekieta. And I need a guy like you I need your hot take on some of this open relationship stuff.
What? I don't think I have a hot take on it. What about it?
Okay, so I've been thinking about open divorces. Like open relationships should have open divorces. And with this, I think that like the people that are affected in the open relationship by like the scary thing that happened with like one of the people in the open relationship, they should be like financially compensated for like the problems with that one person. So in this case, I would say, okay, well, I'll give you the scenario. Steel Toe, he opened up his relationship, started, fucking around with Rekieta and doing hot tub stuff and cocaine. So he would be responsible to pay Rekieta because Rekieta was damaged, like his brand was damaged and a lot of his like life was damaged. He really should be paying Rekieta money for like the divorce of his wife because, he partially owned his wife.
What? Why?
Rekieta partially owned Steel Toe's wife for being in the open relationship, so he should get money from Steel Toe.
How does he own his wife?
Well, maybe I'm a bit foggy on open relationships, but what's the ownership hierarchy thing?
I don't think anybody owns anybody in any relationship unless you're talking about like slavery or like purchased like brides, like mail order brides.
I hate to say it, there was some leather stuff there, so there might have been some like S&M stuff going on there.
You know what? There might have been, but I think that ownership is only sexual, so the debt paid should be sexual, not monetary.
Ooh, I like that. What sort of sexual debts do you think Steel Toe should have to pay Rekieta?
I'm not sure, but we'd have to figure out what sexual deficits were created to understand how he should make things right. And I don't have access to that information yet.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna leave you guys short, but I do have one more thing. There's a guy named Wildman on here that's never going to be let on, but he had a good question. His question was, how many inches?
24.
Okay, there we go. That's all I need to say. Thank you guys. Thank you, everyone. I'll be off.
Thanks. Jesus.
Yeah, Wildman is currently living in this car, and he is he's bragging about getting into gunfights pretty regularly, so we can't have him on.
Nice.
Joker, I think you had a couple more people.
I do have a few. I was going to start off with federal agent.
Alright. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom alaikum. Today, I want to ask about your support for continual U.S. imperialism.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Go for it. Just as a heads up, it's like lightning a lot out here. I don't know if that means my internet's going to cut off. Just giving you a heads up in case it does. I'm not like trying to duck a question, but just, letting you know. Go ahead.
It's nature telling you that it's going to be hard.
Okay.
But yeah. So you said that there was no U.S. wars done for profit. Would you be willing to at least accept that U.S. wars were greatly influenced by profit, especially when fit into the capitalist economic system, and the U.S. hegemony around the world globally is founded on that system of economic exploitation of the third world that they're trying to preserve?
No, I don't. Maybe at one point in time, but at least I think you can make a stronger argument maybe for like British or French history or like European, but for American history, like exploitation of third world countries, I don't think was as big a part of what we did historically, just because we've had a whole country here. I think the biggest probably example of exploitation that we would have engaged in would have been slavery, but we weren't like colonizing.
No, I'm talking about like 20th century Cold War.
1900s. I mean, like, the problem is that like you can argue that it was for capitalism or for profit, but like it's so reductionist to say that I don't think you're saying anything meaningful there. Like every country wants resources.
Whoa.
Every country wants to support its like local industry, whether it's state owned or privately owned. So
maybe I could restate.
Maybe what?
It's not necessarily for. Let me restate. It's not for profit alone, right? And it's not simply for profit, but rather the entire system of U.S. dominance over the world needs to be maintained by interventions or suppression of popular forces which would break away from that system or which want to be independent from the system. And the system itself is global free trade, international institutions, basically the international liberalism that we've been living under since pretty much the end of World War II. And especially
sure. Let's say,
since
yeah,
the
sure.
use
Let's
of
just say granted. Like, what's the particular question or point? What about it?
Yeah. I think that implores you to support the absolute destruction of this system and the allowing for popular forces that are actually supported by the masses of each country to take over and assert their sovereignty. So this would mean like we don't mess around in other countries anymore.
What do you mean? Wait, to be clear, when you say mess around, do you mean like no trade or anything too, or?
No, trade's fine. Armed intervention or predatory loans through our basically proxy institutions like the IMF or World Bank. So
I don't think the IMF generally engages in that type of loaning anymore. I think that economists have seen that it's not very effective.
Since when?
Well, what was the last like bad behavior of the IMF that you think was like
the IMF in particular? I know there's some loans in Africa, but I don't remember the country specifically, right? I'm willing to take a bet though. I could give you a $25 Amazon gift card.
I don't want to bet on it. My understanding is
just so you.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're just making shit up. Yeah, I'm not accusing you of anything. My understanding is that the IMF engaged in monetary policy, I shouldn't say monetary policy. I'm sorry, but like types of like financial assistance that ended up being not as beneficial to other countries, but that the IMF had like
on
large.
Purpose.
I don't think it was on purpose, but we're probably.
Well, when you take sure. No, we can agree on this. So if for example, right, your economy is a planned economy, it runs off of the nationalization of a certain resource or commodity, and is the lifeblood of your economy, and you're specifically planning for this to do stuff in the future. You're doing infrastructure based off of this as integral to your political system. If you were given a loan from the IMF, which has a condition on it, which is privatization, which is opening up to U.S. corporations, it can actually destroy the way your economy is functioning.
I mean, it could, but I don't think there's anything. Yeah, I don't think there's anything intrinsic to any of those statements. Like sometimes, like people argued that oil might be the lifeblood to Venezuela, and their nationalizing of their oil industry was fucking horrible. Not just because they chased off foreign direct investment, but also because like the actual government running of those oil refineries and systems was just dog shit compared to the private corporations that were running it before. So like, I'm sure there are times when like private companies running things, is to the detriment of a country or could be bad for a country, and I'm sure there are times when a country running things could be bad for the country. I don't think that just because you're pushing in one direction or the other necessarily makes it bad or it's like inherently corrupt or evil. But like if there was an example of like the IMF saying that like, well, we want to loan money here to undermine this government and to fuck with these people, like if that ever came out, or if it seemed to be obvious that like that was like the goal, I don't need like an explicit statement to prove it, that'd be unreasonable. But if that seemed to be like the goal, then I'd say, okay, yeah, this is probably shitty to do that. Yeah.
So two things. If it was the case, right, that a lot of these loans were given out to leaders after U.S. backed or directly U.S. enforced overthrowing of popular regimes, right? So then you get these conditional loans, which open your economy up to U.S. megacorps and such after your entire country has been overthrown. Would you say that that's bad? And also the threat there, I think this ties back to the Venezuela point, which I think you're dead wrong about, but we don't have to talk about the nationalization. It's an implicit threat to sovereignty. You now have a new interest group that you have no control over that is completely independent and is only responsive to a state which you have no control over. So you basically have this foreign, extremely powerful entity now living in your country that has the ability to meddle in your politics, that has the ability to exploit your people and extract your resources, all of which you have no fucking ability to stop. So I think that that's a big threat to country sovereignty, and that's an extension of U.S. imperialism. I can name countries if you want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think that I would defend U.S. foreign policy during the Cold War. I mean, the Soviets were trying to overthrow countries as well. I think we supported people that we thought were more in our court, and the Soviets supported
what
people
countries?
What countries? What
did the Soviet Union try to overthrow?
I mean, there was a huge war in Afghanistan. I mean,
they tried to overthrow somebody in Afghanistan.
Yeah, the Soviets were literally supporting their own like government in Afghanistan. There was
I thought they were overthrowing it. Whoa, Destiny, you said they were overthrowing somebody. I didn't know they were supporting their own government. Was there an existing movement?
Hold on, wait. I'm so sorry. Let me just hold on. Let me just clearly. Are you telling me that you think that the popular support in Afghanistan was for the Soviet-backed government? You think that that's what the people there genuinely wanted?
The people genuinely wanting a Soviet-backed government, I think, is contentious considering what happened afterwards. But there is admissions by Brzezinski Zygmunt Brzezinski, who's the big U.S. foreign policy guy back then, that he and the CIA were actively training and influencing Mujahideen forces in direct opposition to this. So if there was opposition to the Soviet government, I'm not sure how much of this was actually popular and not just synthetically created in some sort of like insane Islamic color revolution funded by the CIA.
Do you think that any of the Soviet like bloc that opposed the Soviet Union, do you think that all of that was like color revolution stuff too?
No, one, we know for sure some of them were, right? George Soros.
That's not what I asked you. No.
Right?
I just asked you do you think that all of the opposition to the Soviet Union and the control of all the
Oh, probably not. Obviously, that's trivially true, bro. Of course, there's some organic discontent with a overbloated Soviet bureaucracy running your country.
No. Hold on. Let me ask a more particular question. Do you think that there was a reasonable, like a sizable chunk, I'll say at least like 40 or 50% of the population that was unhappy basically being under the rule of the Soviet Union? Or do you think this is like a marginal, like, oh, maybe like 1 to 5% of people in some countries were unhappy? That when you look at
and also, just to be clear, you've now pivoted completely from your earlier point, which is that the Soviet Union was doing the same type of regime change operations that the U.S. was doing with the Cold War. You went to Afghanistan, we went off of that. Now we're talking about the Eastern Bloc states.
Okay, hold on. Wait, I'm so sorry. Okay, hold on. Wait. Okay, so backing up. Hold on. Yeah, sure. Wait. Yeah, I know you can answer. Hold on, but I got to counter because you just said I was pivoting. No, I didn't pivot. You asked. I made the claim. You asked me about foreign policy and regime change.
Like Joe Biden.
You said you hold on. You asked me about foreign policy and regime change, and I said I wouldn't generally support the American foreign policy throughout the Cold War. I know that America was trying to do regime change in countries in ways that I probably wouldn't support. People like Pinochet, however much we roll with that. People like Batista, these types of regimes that we supported, I probably wouldn't be okay with that. But the Soviets were trying to do regime change as well. And then you asked me, wait, where do you think the Soviets were trying to do regime change? And then I gave Afghanistan as an example. And you seem to be saying, well, I think that Afghanistan might have been more of a color revolution. So now I'm curious, and I'm asking, do you think that any of the regimes that opposed the Soviet Union were legitimately opposing them, or was it all color revolutions? That's how we got there. I'm not trying to pivot or change any of my central claims because I don't even agree on the Afghanistan thing.
I understand. Yeah, look, we don't have to talk about Afghanistan anymore, but that wasn't my claim. I'd rather go to the better topic, which is, in general, do you think that the U.S. post-Cold War, right, has engaged in elimination of regimes which exist contrary to its interests, both economic and political, at the cost of mass civilian casualties, at the cost of the sovereignty of the peoples of the world, and at the cost of their international standing, pretty much?
There are wars that we have been involved in that I think were done for poor reasons, but were these done like strictly on like highly imperialistic grounds? I don't think so. No, I don't. I'm not sure. The two biggest challenges that I would think would maybe be maybe the Iraq War and maybe intervention in Libya would maybe be like the two worst ones that I can think of. But yeah.
If I could define imperialist for you as something like when a state or polity seeks to advance its political interests and its economic interests in a way which serves to profit them and only them, and to expand their power and only their power. And that would be imperialism. Would you say that defines most of U.S. foreign policy during the Cold War and afterwards?
I guess, but that would define everybody's foreign policy.
That's definitely not true, right? There are certain regimes which are most definitely not doing it for their own interests and often do things.
Can you give me an example of regime? Yeah, can you give me an example of that?
Where regimes will like halt like particularly offensive action and opt instead for like more chill policies, which might not like get back all of the profits or benefits that it could, and instead like some sort
like
of
an example of a regime advocating foreign policy
Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. Basically all of Chinese foreign policy. I would say most of Soviet Union foreign policy.
One example. So for China's Belt and Road Initiative, when you talked about earlier about predatory loans and everything, you don't agree that China engaged in predatory loans when it came to the Belt and Road Initiative?
No. Where did this happen? They got one port in Sri Lanka, a single port. I do not consider that predatory at all. If they basically have control of one port, and the Sri Lankan people and government have the rest, I don't really care about that. It has nothing compared to the devastation of the IMF and other international institutions that have wrecked in the Caribbean, in Africa, in Latin America, or in South Korea. So all these places which have been completely eradicated.
Okay, so my understanding is that like part of how China makes deals with these countries is that they make loans to build certain ports, and part of the conditions for these ports is not only will the country have to pay back a great deal of money, but Chinese workers are also brought in to work like all of these construction jobs as well. And that there have been a number of examples of like these ports ending up becoming like Chinese controlled. And that I think like a few years ago, China ended up canceling a whole bunch of these new projects because a lot of countries were starting to get like ass mad about this and people didn't want to be involved in this anymore. Is my characterization there unfair or not true, or?
I would say it's completely unfair, right? For a couple of reasons. I don't know which ports you're talking about. I only know one example, which is Sri Lanka, which I already brought up, which is a single port, right?
Okay, well here, if you have one single example.
Here's the other thing. Yeah. A lot of the countries which canceled the deals, I don't know specifically, they actually pulled out first, right? So China has no obligation to finish an infrastructure plan that their partner has pulled out of. And the other thing about Chinese builders coming in or Chinese workers, I see nothing wrong with that. That is not predatory in the way that saying, I'm giving you money on the condition that you open up your economy, right?
Wait, how is it predatory to loan somebody money with the condition that like you have to open yourself up to foreign investment?
Because I already explained this, remember? Because you now allow an entity into your
but they don't have to accept they don't have to accept the loan though. No, they could just say we don't want the money.
But you understand. Okay, well now we're going on to a different point, right? Do you accept that in certain conditions, right, where there's a desperate state or there's a state which really needs this money or really needs U.S. support, and they are given this support on the condition they open up your economy? Would you say that's exploitative and predatory?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody's like, are you saying that those countries have a right to your money?
Okay, one, right? This is equivalent.
Wait, I need you to answer that question. No, wait, no analogies, no. I need you to answer that question. Do you think that those countries have a right if your country is suffering? Do you think you have a right to the economy?
I don't believe in these rights. No, I don't think you have a right to anything, much less.
Okay, wait. Then how is it exploitative or predatory?
Because in the same way a quid pro quo type thing is, right? Or even like a Harvey Weinstein type thing.
No, wait, hold on, wait. We don't need, this is not complicated. Wait, hold on, wait. We don't need analogies. We don't need metaphors. Just tell me, like plainly, how is it exploitative?
The analogy, because you'll see how it's unethical.
I'm not trying to run from the analogy, but an analogy right now is being used to obfuscate. This is not a complicated topic that requires an analogy.
Moral quality is exactly equivalent, right? We're talking about if it's immoral or exploitative, actually just exploitative, to offer something which the opposing party has no right to in return for something which benefits you in a way which some would deem disadvantageous to the other person, right? That's sort of what we're talking about. There's different degrees of this, and I'm giving you a hypothetical, which is somewhat equivalent, right? Where we have a Harvey Weinstein situation. Let's say it's him. You have no right to be promoted by Harvey Weinstein. You don't have any right to his money or to his power or to his fame, right? But if he's wielding that over you while you're like a desperate actress and making you do things which are very harmful to yourself and to your dignity for the future, right? I would say that's an exploitative act.
Wait, what if Harvey Weinstein advertised himself that way? What if Harvey Weinstein opened up a production company for, say, porn, and he said, hey, listen, if you want to be an actress, you can come work for me, but you have to fuck me. Do you think that would be exploitative?
Yeah, for sure. If he went up to like desperate women off the streets and shit, like homeless women, yeah, I would say that's exploitative and disgusting, right? I would want that guy in prison.
Are all forms of employment by people that are facing, starvation or whatever, or people that need jobs are all forms of employment exploitation?
Well, it depends on the situation, but most employment is not done by massively powerful people on massively underpowerful people. Wait. Usually people in class or low-level management or something.
Most employment isn't done by people that have power over other people?
No, massive power differentiation. So like fucking Haiti versus the U.S. is a massive power difference, right?
What about Walmart? What about Walmart versus a citizen?
Walmart and a citizen is completely different. I think that is not necessarily predatory, and I think that the way that operates is actually not. I guess maybe you could say it's exploitative in some meta or like Marxist analysis or something, in the same way that all employment is. But it's not the super immoral type of exploitation, right? Because I don't think that you're sacrificing that much by working at Walmart. There's not that big thing that you have to do, which is a massive damage to yourself and which is a massive damage to your dignity and honor and such, and to your people, right? It's just an individual.
Okay. In that case, then, can you give me an example of an IMF loan that you thought was highly predatory or extremely damaging to a country?
A particular
yeah, just
IMF
one.
loan. I mean, okay, how about this, right? Mm-hmm. If I give you this one, will you concede that this happens?
No, I need to look into it. Why would you ask me if I would concede something? I'm just asking you if there's an example of a predatory IMF loan.
Yeah. There is, right? Now, I can give you one example now, or I can provide you with a better list, right? And if you think I'm bluffing, I'm willing to make a bet on it.
No,
I'll
hold
send
on.
you
Jesus,
whatever,
there's so
right?
much posturing.
But
Hold on.
look,
I'm not, hold on. Wait.
it's not
I'm not, wait. I'm not trying to, it's not like a
97
huge
Korea.
gotcha. I'm just asking you,
No,
in the
leave me
purpose of this
alone.
conversation, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like, give me an
97
example of
loans,
your strongest, like,
97
what's an
loans.
IMF loan that was, like,
Yeah,
super
South
predatory?
Korea- Okay, we gave IMF loans to South Korea in 97, right? That were so bad that half the Korean population had to sell their gold to the government, right? And in order for them to pay back the loan there. And it basically had because South Korea before this was a burgeoning SOCDEM sort of state, right? It was contrasted with the North Koreans. And then we give them this loan. It sends in all these massive fucking corporations, right? It makes the country go on a bit of a downward spiral, destroys the burgeoning social democracy, and forces the population to pay out of pocket in order to return the favor. After, by the way, we destroyed Korea in the Korean War, completely unjustified, by the way, like one of the silliest wars of all time, with a massive human cost that has not been addressed adequately by the U.S. then or since. I can give you more. I just have to look.
No, that's okay.
More
Just
specifically.
literally just one thing at a time. Okay. So for the loan that was given in the for the loan that was given to South Korea in '97, you think this was done for the purposes of exploiting them? Was South Korea up till '97?
No, not necessarily.
Do you Well, up to '97, did South Korea have foreign investment or private businesses that?
Not to the extent, right? Or else we wouldn't have put it as a condition on the loan, right? We wouldn't put forced privatization or privatization as an aspect of a loan onto also.
Why
a
was
better
the
example
why?
would be
Wait.
Russia.
No. Just one thing, please. We don't have to hop around to 50 million things. If your example is good and strong, we can talk through this example. We don't have to talk about anything else.
Well, I'm not sure it's the strongest. I know there's better ones.
I asked you for the strongest one, and this is the one you gave me. Do you want to switch to it?
No, you didn't. Look. You can revert the video if you're recording, right? You did not ask for the strongest example. You asked for one example. I offered to give you better ones later, right?
Okay. Then wipe it away. Listen, I'm not going for gotchas. Okay, can you give me what you understand is to be the strongest example of a predatory IMF loan? What do you think is the best example of, like, this is the worst?
The strongest example of a predatory IMF loan? I remember that the country was either in Eastern Europe, Latin America, or some country in Africa, but I'm forgetting. I don't remember if it was Congo afterwards, but there has been some like brutal loans in those three regions, and I'm trying to remember which one. Now, if you think I'm bluffing, because I'm just trying to be authentic here, right? I don't have them offhand. I'm walking around the gym right now. I can provide them to you once I got back to my computer, and it's going to be from one of those three regions, and I can give you some like money as a collateral or something, right? Just so you don't think so. But I think that those three regions, there's been some crazy IMF loans. And I also think that this is not the main way, or this is one of the main ways, but it's not the central way that we deal with counter hegemonic regimes. But I think that we overthrow them completely, usually through hard power, or use civil society NGOs to try to destabilize the populist governments. I think those are the two main ways we enforce U.S. unipolarity now and during the Cold War. But if you want to continue talking about the loans, we can. I just have to find the specific instances.
Okay.
And yeah. Russia,
I mean, I think
Russia's
if we have like a hugely negative
yeah.
opinion of the IMF and a hugely positive opinion of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, I was just curious if we have like one or two big examples that we're having in mind when we think of like the IMF engaging in predatory loans. That's why I was just curious for an example of one, because I hear this claim repeated a lot, but I haven't really seen a lot of examples, or I think any strong examples of this happening. So that's the only reason I asked.
So that's of course. I understand, right? Because there's a lot of dumbasses, right, who rep the communist tanky position, right? There's Hassan, right? Hassoy, right? We don't rep him, right? I suggest all of you look into Infrared Hawes, right? Or Jackson Hinkle. They might be a bit schizo on Twitter sometimes, but those guys are powerful, right? But when it comes to IMF loans, a really good example, and that is the Eastern Europe one I was thinking of, is Russia post-Soviet collapse, where you basically have all these nationalized industries that during the Soviet Union were using the money produced to reinvest in people and infrastructure, all of that, and then sold off to like giant financial oligarchs after the period of opening up. And in the decade of the 1990s, we saw a dramatic decrease in quality of life, increase in things like the sex trade and unemployment, and also massive foreign investment and loans.
Okay. I don't believe that the standards of living under the Soviet Union were so amazing that afterwards it was like foreign investment that drove down standards of living throughout the Soviet Union. I don't think any of that is true.
Bro, so we basically had one situation where there was no child trafficking, no massive human suffering, infant mortality was way lower, education
When we say no
was
massive
higher.
human suffering, I mean like you literally had like mass famines. What do you mean?
Mass famines in like the Stalin era, right? Which, by the way, were just kind of typical for any sort of mass development. I mean, we saw how British capitalism and European capitalism in general were built through these massive famines, right? But regardless, this is in the 90s, right? The Soviet Union's
Were there
collapse
hold
in
on,
the
I'm
90s.
sorry.
If you're-
Through the growth of the United States, maybe my history is just shitty. Were there mass famines in the United States that left millions and millions of people dead?
No, because, well, one, right? There was other ways in which we killed a bunch of people, right? The path was kind of cleared for us.
The house wasn't cleared for the
by
American
the-
population. As the American population was industrializing, becoming a world economic leader, where did we have those growing pains where we had mass starvation events in the USA?
No, because one, right, the climate in the USA was a lot better, but the capital, right, necessary to start these colonies did come as a result of a mass famine that happened in Bangladesh, right? So
That
you
happened
have this
amongst
massive
what?
famine in Bangladesh.
That's how the United States fed its civilian population?
No. I'm saying that there was no famine specifically for the United States when they were developing because they had already a lot of investment as a British colony, and that British investment came from the British Empire, which was funded, or at least founded on these sort of like mass famines and starvation events that happened in a lot of the exporting colonies. So India is a great example of this, right?
So
Or
the
Bangladesh,
United States,
now.
so the United States was able to avoid famine because of British investment that was bolstered by famine in India.
So yeah. So in order to fund the United States, like the beginning, in order to get technological improvements and stuff, this money doesn't come out of thin air. The people don't come out of thin air, right? The infrastructure and material itself doesn't just spawn. You need money for that, and you need to be able to finance this. And in the original 13 colonies, there is going to be a mass influx of British capital that is funding all of this, and that's actually the start of the Americas, right? Not of the Americas, but of the American system and the American economy. And I would also like to mention that a lot of the industrialization in the North was built off of slavery and profits from slavery. But in general, right, we can say that industrialization often comes at a great human cost. And we can talk about the Holodomor, which I think was a lot.
Which
we probably have different
industrialization in
opinions.
Western Europe, did these lead to mass famine events?
In Western Europe, I'm not sure about the industrialization that happened there.
We're making a rule of thumb that like industrialization always incurs mass famine events. So
Not
I'm curious
always.
for
Most
any
of the
other
time.
parts of the
Most
world
of the time.
besides like China
Yeah.
and Russia. These are the two biggest ones that I'm familiar with.
Well, yeah, India, England. There was some famines in Russia before this, and also the Irish famine. That
Did
accompanied
the Irish
it.
famine happen as a result of industrialization?
Oh no, it accompanied it. So as the development increases, I'm more shaky on this, but I remember reading about it, and so I can give you sources if you think I'm bluffing. You should give me some time. But there's definitely a position there.
Okay,
But
all right.
regardless,
Okay. So
I
what's
think
the?
Soviet.
Yeah. So okay. So let's bring it back. Where are we at? Or what do we?
So yeah, we're talking about U.S. imperialism and the fact that you support it, right? And I think that we can get to the I guess the elephant in the room, which is the Middle East, right? I think that the partnership between Israel and the United States has been largely disastrous for the regimes around it. I think there's been lots of interventions by both. I'm not going to make the claim that the U.S. is doing this on behalf of Israel, but it certainly seems like Israel benefits every time that they do. And I think that the like actual
Yeah, I think I would just say
intervention-
I support. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of U.S. imperialism.
Well, do you support any U.S. interventions that happened?
Yeah,
Like what?
all of them.
Well, no, clearly not. You said you didn't support the Cold War stuff.
I
But,
changed my
if
mind.
you
I
have
do
a serious
support that.
answer- Well, it seems like you've retreated into joking and such because I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not.
Well, I think the issue is I think that we are so far off factually from our understandings of what's happened historically that whatever conversation we have is going to be essentially pointless. It sounds like you
we're
feel
not
like
even that far off.
it sounds like we're very far off because it sounds like you feel like the Soviet Union never engaged in like adventurous like imperialism. You feel like famines were all caused; they were unavoidable byproducts of industrialization, and that the IMF has like a history of intentionally giving predatory loans in order to increase like U.S. hegemonic presence. Yeah, I don't agree with any of these things. So to argue about any one of these,
you have no investigation, nowhere to speak, Brad. Have you read a single book on all these? No. The max you've done maybe is a YouTube video or Wikipedia
Hold on,
article.
sure, but wait, just to be clear, you haven't read a single book on any of this either, right?
Oh, how much you bet? I could pull up my Goodreads right now, Brad.
I'm not gonna bet. I mean, like, you could have read a book on it, but if so, like your knowledge retention, your knowledge retention is so bad that it would be more embarrassing to admit that you have read.
Do you think that anybody who watched this would come away with that conclusion?
Yes, because you're giving me very macro level descriptors, but you don't know a single specific thing. You said industrialization always leads to famine, and when I asked about anything in Western Europe, hold on, and when I asked about anything in Western Europe, you didn't have a single example until you kind of started flailing around.
It's a gap, right?
And then when I ask you, well, can you give me an example of like any like IMF predatory loan when you're establishing this pattern? You eventually gave me South Korea, and then you said, well, Eastern Europe, and that was all you had. And then when I asked
Russia.
Sure, but Russia wasn't like.
If you think I'm bluffing, you can bet on it. I'm at the gym
it's
right
not,
now, right?
bro. You're so hardcore to posture to like debate, bro. I don't know why you're doing this. It's super cringe. You don't have to threaten to like bet on every single fucking thing. I'm just asking you basic questions, and you're getting so unbelievably fucking defensive.
You're claiming I'm defensive, right? Because you went on and said that I don't know what I'm talking about.
No. Yeah, hold on. Yes, at the end of the conversation I had, but you've been insanely defensive the whole conversation. I'm just like asking you a question. You're like, I can give you so much afterwards. I give you so much. Like, I'm just asking you a question.
I understand that you're upset. We don't have to talk about this, right?
I'm not. Okay, all right, I'm good. Okay, I'm good.
I accept your surrender. But in terms of this debate, I think you were thoroughly humiliated. If you want to actually go on the substance and the sources, you can. I guess wait for me to tag you with all of them.
I'm good. Next time, if you read books on things, like remember examples. This is the easiest way to win a debate. Is have like an actual example.
For literally everything.
Wait.
Okay, we've got to start moving along.
Okay, I think I do like one or two more. Give me, go for it. I'll go do two more. Go for it.
Okay. So next up is King Harambe Banana. If you're still here.
Hello.
Hello.
It's nice meeting you. I've been waiting for a long time, so pretty excited. So I have one question. So do you think the contribution of the powerful LGBT activist group called Human Rights Campaign that is responsible for the CEI, Corporate Equality Index, which has considerable power and influence to lobby CP in elementary school, destruction of women's sports and sex changes for children as young as 3. Should this corporation continue to have this great influence over society? And if they shouldn't, how can we revoke the power or fight against them?
Oh, I don't know. I don't waste my time thinking about these things at all. So I'm not sure. I don't know I don't know. They have a huge pull on society, so I don't really think much about it.
I mean, do you know what the CEI is?
Not something equality index. I have no idea.
Okay, I can ask you a different question if you want to.
Sure.
Okay, so is there any? So what would be any celebrity or like popular person of debate that you would have a conversation to in the future that you haven't done?
It'd be fun to talk to Sam Harris or Joe Rogan.
Oh. Do you think you'll do that anytime soon?
Who knows? Hopefully, we'll see.
Do you think you will talk to Sneeko again?
Probably not.
Okay, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right. Since we only have time for one more person, we're going to go ahead and bring Vince up here if he's ready. I guess not. He was prepping some kind of hot tub. Oh, here we go. Never mind.
Oh. Am I supposed to be?
Hello, hello. We can hear you.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hi, what's up?
Oh, I didn't. Well, I mean, that was the promise, but I just wanted to ask you a few questions. I'm actually having one of the workers open it now. You know, just one of the slave hands. Destiny, what if you don't mind, I do have one question for you, really quick, pertaining to. This is kind of while it's getting open. I promise. This was kind of a promise for everyone, but in terms of the upcoming debates between Trump and Biden. Do you think it's weird that they're not allowing, like, kind of Donald Trump to do his thing? Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
what does that mean?
there's going to be restrictions. There's going to be restrictions on basically. He's not going to be able to woo any crowds.
Yeah, there's not going to be a live
able
crowd, and they're
to,
going to be able to mute the mics. No, I think that's good for honest debates.
Well, exactly. But what about him literally not even be? I mean, they're going to turn off microphones and everything like that.
Yeah, I think
What do
it's
you think
fair.
about that?
If you want to have like a debate where two candidates are substantively discussing topics, I think that's better than them trying to like get zingers or one-liners over each other or interrupting each other in the middle of their answers.
Or like you'd be in jail or whatever, I guess. Yeah, this is what was promised. I'm sorry. It took a minute, but besides that, like, I don't think it really makes any sense for him not to be able to like interrupt Biden, because I don't think unless Biden's going to be like on some kind of like stims or something, how is it going to be anything like between him and Hillary?
Why? I don't know why we would think that being able to interrupt anybody would make for a more productive conversation.
More productive, but don't you think kind of like half of it's like the excitement kind of thing?
I would hope that we would treat our system of politics and choosing our next president not as like an exciting event, but like as something that's an important part of our civic duty for the furthering of our country, not just whatever gets us the most lulz.
I guess. So, do you think Biden has like any support with like the youth? Then, I mean, what's going on with that then?
I mean, the
'Cause then
polls
that-
are starting to show
I mean,
him like
after-
very slowly, like edging out a tiny lead. So I don't know about the youth in particular. I don't know who the youth supports more, considering that young people tend to lean more liberal anyway, especially college kids and stuff. But they also don't vote that much, so I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, that's okay. I guess because like I feel like a big part of I only like started kind of getting into politics with Trump, so it was kind of the Trump Hillary memes, but I don't think Biden has. I just don't understand how they say there's like any growing support between like Biden or even any candidates that would be thrown in like last second. What do you think?
I mean, I think that if you look at the records of both leaders and you see like what they've accomplished as they've been running the country, I think Biden has a really good record despite him being old and potentially senile. I think that, yeah, I think the joint legislation, the foreign policy decisions, I think that the not attacking all of the political opponents, I think that Biden has done a pretty exemplary job of that. And I mean, I would vote for that over Trump. So
Do you honestly think that Biden and Trump are like anywhere close to being the same like mental state? Like whenever they had their mental acuity tests and everything like that, do you think it was? Do you think that was biased at all, or do you think maybe Trump maybe would come out on top in that sense? And
my guess would be
whenever-
that in anything that's testing for senility or mental like faculty, Trump would probably win a bit. That'd be my guess. Yeah.
when every single Democrat was asking like Trump to be tested for his mental like disabilities, do you think it was a little biased and like now they're not really worried about Biden?
I don't personally remember every single person asking for Trump to be tested for his mental ability. Maybe haven't I just missed it? But
You're right. It wasn't every single person. You're right.
Or I don't remember that being a big talking point. I think people wanted to ask about like his weight or his like something at some point, but I don't remember that much.
Okay, well, I just think it's strange that Biden's even running. Do you think that Gavin Newsom could get dropped in at like any moment or what?
I don't think you want to lose your incumbent advantage and introduce a whole new candidate who could have a whole bunch of like unknowns in their past. That I don't think you'd want to try that. You probably want to maintain your incumbent advantage.
Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions I wanted to ask.
Okay. Well, thanks
Wait,
for asking.
Vince, are you in a pool fully clothed? What the fuck are you doing?
No, just my shirt. I was planning on doing like just like an American shirt thing, but I'm naked.
Okay.
Besides that.
Okay, thank you.
Is your internet doing
So
all right?
yeah,
Dooby?
I think that's the end of it. No, I think the IDF is trying to cock me. I'll just try it. So Destiny, thank you again for coming. Really appreciate you having you on. Always a good time talking to you, and always a good time to have you on talking to the community.
Cool. Thanks.
The server link for people watching the stream was discord.gg/politics. Lots of people here. It's a very diverse community, and yeah, hope you have a good day.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Talk to you later.
Wow. What an exciting time. Give me one example seems to brain fry everyone. Yeah, truly the one example wouldn't even, it's just like the beginning. I don't have enough overall context on these time periods to have broad decisions anyway. I really am just going by like things I've read broadly and vibes. So my opinion could be shifted. I just need like some actual arguments to shift it. But people seem to be very vague all the time when they talk about things. So just curious. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've read like 2 NBER papers on stuff relating to the IMF. So that's basically where the majority of my opinion formation has come from.